very good morning. Welcome to Shop on TV. It's really lovely to have your company. I'm Hayley.
And I'm Sean.
And we've got an amazing show coming up, something very different to what we normally do. And this is all about something that's going to give you an amazing peace of mind. It's about writing wills, and I think that's something we do put off for whatever reason.
It might be something that you've thought of doing, but you've just never got round to it. Well, tonight we've got some fabulous deals with Simpler Law, who are experts when it comes to will writing, and we'll also be talking about lasting powers of attorney.
I think lots of us, I know we put off a will because we knew that everybody, we've been together 33 years, we knew that everybody would know that I wanted my money to go to Sean, Sean wanted his money to go to me, but also life gets in the way, doesn't it? And I did think it would be complicated, I thought it'd be expensive, and it's none of those things. And the truth is, if we hadn't have written a will, and we've only done one just recently because we realised actually that wouldn't have happened at all. No. Sean wouldn't have got my money, I wouldn't have got Sean's money. It could be a situation where we might have not been able to keep the house, because what you want to happen, honestly, isn't going to happen unless it is written down by law. It's quite frightening, so do please, if you're at home thinking, I know I should write it, but I just haven't got around to it, but it'll be okay. It truly won't be okay unless it is written down, and written down by a company like Simpler Law, so you know you have got it all officially and properly done. A
professional company, a company who deal and specialise just in wills and lasting powers of attorney. So we'll talk through all of that throughout the show. We're live right through till 3 a.m. and we'll talk about the fabulous deals we've got, because the prices aren't anything like you expect them to be.
And take a look, because we really did think, you know, it's going to be a big expense, and the truth it's not. Our deals tonight are incredible, and you can take a look at all of them. You can see there, family and estate will is £180 normally. Now, I'd be quite happy with £180 to know that what I wanted to happen with what I own. And you might think I don't own a lot, but you own something. It might be the ring, it might be, you know, the ring your mum left you, it might be your pet, it might be your dog or your cat that you want to leave to somebody. It may be your children. We all own something, and we know what we want to happen to it and what we don't want to happen to it. So for actually £89 tonight, you can get that all officially done, and you can even split that cost over 4 payments of £22.25. Now, have a little think how much you spend perhaps on coffee a month, because I bet if you tallied up your coffee bill, it would be more than £22.25. And for that cost, you have got your will sorted, and it is so simple. Honestly, Simpler Law are amazing people to deal with, and I dealt with them for my mum with lasting power of attorney and with Simpler Law before we met them here on Shop on TV, and they were absolutely incredible. I was quite worried that I'd be frightened of, you know, what to say or what to ask, and they make it all so easy. Another really incredible deal.
Yeah, the usual price of £325 comes down to £179 on the lasting power of attorney, and we'll talk you through that if you've not heard of power of attorney or you just want to have a little bit more information. Again, Simpler Law experts when it comes to it. So £179, but with those 4 interest-free payments that Simpler Law offer, just £44.75 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. And then we also have a combination, a will and an LPA. A suggested retail price and usual price of £505 comes down to £249, and that's £62.25 if you want to take advantage of those interest-free monthly instalments.
And that's better than half price. That is a really incredible deal. Now, the first 250 clients will actually receive a free book, and this is what my family should know. This book is amazing. It's worth £25, but actually it's worth so much more. I truly said, I said originally I think we should be given one of these at birth, but that's perhaps a little bit too early. But I do think every human being should have one of these, because this actually allows, if something does happen, your loved ones to know absolutely everything,
it's all those
where everything is.
Essentials like bank accounts, like pensions, like life policies, but it's also the things that you might not think about that you can put in this book. Things like passwords for your tablet and your phone, all those things where everything's saved.
Yeah, everything is on your phone and your tablet, isn't it? And if something happened to you, and someone couldn't get into that to find, even just for photographs, or disappeared because you can't get into the tablet. We know someone just recently whose dad died, and they could only get into his tablet. Nobody knew the password because of the grandchild.
The grandson.
And he'd played on it, and he knew the code. Otherwise, they wouldn't have got any of the information they needed. So it's an amazing book, and the first 250 clients that actually secure the deal tonight. So all you need to do is actually get onto the phones. Well, have a little look how you can contact us on the phones, on the website. There's various ways, and just secure the deal. That's all you're doing this evening. You're not really going to have to speak a great deal, and actually, if you don't want to speak at all, you can just text, and then somebody will get back to you today, later on today, because we're into today already, but after 11 o'clock. But if you ring, we've got the team in the call centre right now. So you could go onto the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. So you can go directly onto the website. It's very easy to do that, and then they'll get back in touch with you later on today. Or the team are on the phones right now.
Yeah, the team are in the call centre right now, right through till 3 a.m. We'll talk more about the team who are there ready to take your call. You don't need anything with you.
No.
They'll just ask you a couple of details, like Hayley said, to secure the deal. So 0333 600 2600 is the phone number if you want to call and speak to someone. However, on these evening shows, we've found the most popular way of getting in touch is to just text on your mobile phone. And just text the word will, W-I-L-L, whether it's a will or a lasting power of attorney that you want to talk about, to 66777. And then the team will get back in touch with you after 11 o'clock tomorrow morning, this morning.
this morning. The text is super popular, and I think we just find that really easy. So if you think, well, I don't want to speak to anybody tonight, just text Will. That'll secure your deal and secure your book as well, and then they'll get back to you, as we say, later on this morning. Please do not miss out on these incredible opportunities. And what you can do as well, if you perhaps watch the show and then you think, oh, I didn't write it down, you can go onto our website. If you're used to using our website, ShopOnTV.co.uk, you can see on that first page, you can click on the wills
banner,
and LPAs, and it'll take you straight through to the website.
Yeah, it takes you straight through, and just the contact details for you to fill in there. So it's another way for you to get in touch.
Really simple, really quick, really, and actually the phone number is there as well, and the text details. So it's all there on our website. And honestly, it will be one of the best things you do this morning, because this is going to allow you to have that peace of mind that what you want to happen does happen. And actually also what you don't want to happen. Perhaps there's someone in the family you really don't want to get things. And the sad thing is, if you haven't written a will, that could be exactly what happens. What you've got could be theirs. But do stay with us and learn more. But please get in touch as soon as you decide this is the right thing for you. And it truly is. Everybody, absolutely everybody, I think, should have a will.
Without a doubt. And we're not alone. We've mentioned Simpler Law, and we've got two of the team joining us on the show today. So Ian and Charlotte join us. It's lovely to see you both again.
Hello, and to you.
Let's start, Ian, with Simpler Law and who you are, please.
Sure, yeah. We're one of the largest providers of private client legal services in the UK. We obviously specialise in estate planning, so you wouldn't come to us for any other part of the law, basically. So you won't come to us for a boundary dispute, a divorce, a personal injury claim. But if you want to protect everything that you worked hard for, if you want to make sure that what you want to happen when you're no longer here happens, that's why you come to us. So, as I said, we offer a full range of private client legal services, and what that means to our clients as well is we don't have to outsource any of our work. So we control the level of quality of our work and the speed at which we can get the documents to our clients. So we put the client at the heart of everything that we do. The reason we do these shows, and I think you explained it brilliantly at the top of the show, is this is such an important thing that people continually put off.
Yeah.
But we're there to say it doesn't have to be expensive, it doesn't have to be complicated, and it certainly doesn't have to be difficult. But we just want to encourage you to take that first step.
It is that getting started, isn't
well,
it?
we put it off for years because we really did think that what was mine was Sean's and what was Sean's was mine.
Thought that was the case.
There's so many misconceptions, Charlotte, isn't there? As what we think is going to happen, it actually isn't going to happen.
Absolutely. I think the biggest one is the assumption that you just assume, we've been together for this amount of time and we've got these family and friends, that this is obviously going to happen. But according to the law, that's not the case. So a big one is just assuming it's going to happen, and all it takes is just picking up that phone and making that first step to make sure that you can prevent that and make sure that everything is going where you want it to, because you've worked hard your whole life. It's important that you get that.
And the thing I love with Simpler Law is that you just make it so easy. If anyone's at home thinking, oh, I don't know, I won't know the answers to all the questions, you know, I'm terrified of law or anything. If there's a police car behind me, I think it was me, I did it, whatever it was. And it terrifies me, but you make it so simple. There's no big long words, it's really easy, and you virtually talk the answers out of.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a conversation. That's all we have at the comfort of your own home, because it's over the phone. Get a cup of tea, sit down, and it's a hand-holding service. We will take you at your own pace through the consultation, and you know, some clients will come to us and know exactly what they want to achieve, exactly where they want everything to go, which is great, but also there are other clients that will come and still have no idea.
Yeah.
And you don't need to have the answers. That's what we're there for, to just have that conversation. And sometimes, without knowing it, you do know what you want to happen.
Have the answers,
absolutely, yeah. So it's just a hand-holding service. We'll go at your pace, in your own time, to make sure we're producing a document that's right for you.
And why do you think those misconceptions are there? It's just, for us, it was just an assumption.
Yeah.
But there's lots of reasons, isn't there?
There is, yeah, it's assumption. I think it's just a lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
It's not something you get up out of bed, is it, and think, oh, why should I write a will, or, you know, what are the reasons for it? So it's not just out there as easily unless you're having that conversation or you're in that situation, or maybe you know someone that's had a bad experience or a good experience to actually relate to. So this is why we do these shows, because we want that to be out there for people to know how important it is and how easy it is just to pick up the phone, make that first step, and we'll lead you through the rest of it.
It's so easy, and it's complete peace of mind. It's something you definitely won't regret doing. You'll feel like a weight's been lifted off your shoulder, and suddenly it all makes sense, especially when you discover what could happen if you don't have a will, and we will go through that as well. But Ian, there's so many other things that you do other than wills.
Yeah, as part of the full range of services that we provide, it's all around estate planning. So as I said, that's essentially the only thing that we do. So we're specialists in that area. But as you can see from the list there, obviously wills and estate planning is at the top. We're going to talk about lasting power of attorney more through the show as well, which is really important. We do a lot of trust work. We actually manage about £600 million of assets for our clients as well, to make sure that they're safe for their beneficiaries. And you can see from there, even probate and estate administration. So it isn't just about helping our clients today. It's about being there for them and the family all through the whole process, and actually being there at the point of need as well. So, you know, there's quite a lot to this, but Charlotte's absolutely right on what she just said. We don't wake up on a morning and think, I'm going to go into a search engine and type what happens when I pass away, you know, because it's not something that's at the forefront of our mind. And yet if I meet new people and they say, what do you do for a living? If I say I'm a will writer, invariably the answer I get, or the comeback is, oh, we've been meaning to make a will. So people sort of have an idea that they should have one, but it's just like, let's be honest, there's sexier things to spend your money on.
Of course, yeah.
But I think, you know, one of the main reasons we do this show, we're trying to get knowledge out there that isn't out there, because you can only know what you know. So when people like you have an assumption, the rest of the British public have an assumption. And actually, I think it's less of an assumption and more of a hope.
Yeah.
I think that actually, if I pass away, this is what I hope is going to happen. Because if you really pin someone down and say, why do you think everything's going to be okay? They can't actually give you the origin of that belief. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
it's like,
no one told us it.
You didn't get something through the letterbox that said, oh, by the way, you've been partners for a while, so you should be okay. It is an absolute assumption out of thin air. And so you used the word regret a second ago, and you're absolutely right. No one regrets putting estate planning in place, but sadly some families regret that a loved one didn't.
If it's not there.
Yeah, so if you are sat watching this and thinking, I've been thinking about making a will, in the nicest possible way, I would stop thinking about it. Either send us the text tonight, or they're in the call centre now, the client care team are there to take your call. You don't need to know what you want to do tonight. We don't expect that, but it's just about taking that first step, and honestly, you'll do something amazing, not just for yourself, but obviously for the people that you care about.
And it's like
just getting started, isn't it?
And it's like your final gift to your loved ones.
Yeah.
Isn't
It's your last act on planet Earth, truthfully. It's, you know, it sounds a little bit melodramatic, that, but if you think about it, the reading of your will, if you've made a will, is the last thing that you did, so make it amazing. If you don't make a will, as we're about to discuss through later in the show, your last act on planet Earth isn't yours.
No.
Someone else is going to take control of it. You
Yeah.
lose control.
And
Yeah.
could cause a complete family upset, couldn't it? So often.
Sadly, we still see it, and again, it's not a throwaway line when I say we see it every day. We sadly see it every day. Because we're one of the largest in the UK, obviously, we're dealing with thousands of new clients, but we're also dealing with you know, at the point of need as well. And we know that we'd rather deal with a family where someone's planned as opposed to trying to help a family where someone hasn't planned, because the difference is quite stark.
I mean, it's quite incredible what actually happens, and it won't be what you imagine at all. So we're going to talk about wills. We're also going to talk about lasting power of attorney, which we should perhaps touch on just now, because if you're thinking, well, obviously I've heard about a will, but a lasting power of attorney I haven't heard about. Well, we only learnt about it through family and things, and I've only in the last 2 years done mums with simpler law, and honestly, though it petrified me and Mum, you were so amazing. But can you explain? It's like you became friends with the person you dealt with. I dealt with Mariana and Joanne. I still remember their names. It was 2 years ago. And you just made it so easy. What is lasting power of attorney?
So these are separate documents to your will. So your will come into place once you've passed away. Powers of attorney are for while you're alive, but if you're unable to make your own decisions, so if you've lost your capacity for whatever reason. So there's 2 types of power of attorney. One is for your property and finance. So that allows whoever you nominate, so a family or friend, whoever that person would be, to access your bank accounts, pay bills, claim pensions or benefits, anything to do with your finances. And the other document is for health and welfare. So this one allows you to decide where that person's living, if you want to live at home with you, to discuss medication, anything like that. So these are really, really powerful documents, because I don't think people realise without them, unfortunately, those people that you love can't make those decisions for you. So
you would imagine, I always thought, because I mean, I look after my mum now, that surely if my mum wasn't well enough to look after herself, that I would be able to sort all of that out.
I remember what Ian said, you wouldn't do it now when everything's fine, so why would you think that if your mum's not well,
well, again, it's back to this assumption, is if you turn around to someone now and said, oh, if you and your wife, because again, married couples, there's an assumption, well, we're married, we can look after each other's affairs. If you happen to have separate bank accounts, even with a joint bank account, but I won't bore you with what the British Banking Association say, but effectively, if one of you loses capacity, that account should be frozen. Yeah. But imagine if you've got separate bank accounts. Today, you wouldn't think that you could walk into your wife's bank and say, oh, by the way, can I have some money out of my wife's account? You know, you'd be shut down. It'd be like, what are you talking about? And yet, if your wife then sadly was incapacitated through an accident or illness, we're all living longer, you know, dementia's prevalent at the moment. And if you're really unlucky in life threw you that curveball, if you then went into the bank and said, oh, by the way, my wife now can't make decisions for herself, is it okay if I have the money now? Somehow people think that they'll go, oh, that's fine now, when actually it's even more difficult. So this is one of those things, you know, Charlotte hit the nail on the head. We know there's an inevitability to a will being used. A lasting power of attorney is a document that you want to have in place and then hope that your family never need to use it.
Just in case, isn't it?
It's the what-if document,
Absolutely.
Now, with everything, every appointment.
So whether you're actually looking at the wills, and we'll give you the details again for the wills, lasting power of attorney, or both, and we'll keep running through all of the details and the offers that we have. The first 250 clients that just actually secure the deal tonight, and they're incredible prices at the deals this evening. You'll get one of these incredible books.
Now, worth £25 for the first 250 people, as we say, who secure the deals. This has been so popular, Ian.
It's been really well received, yeah. It was born out of our estate, well, basically our probate departments. When they're doing estate administration, one of the jobs that any executor has to do, and we act as professional executors for a lot of our clients, you have to gather in the assets of the deceased, you know, and understand everything that they've got. And what this does is it allows someone to, you know, make a brew, sit down and take stock of what they've got. But you quite rightly said it's not always about tangible things like bank accounts and pensions and life insurance policies, but we do live a digital life now, and access to a lot of things, and certainly treasured memories like photos and videos, for example, can only be accessed through your device if you've got facial recognition or a password.
Really important, the first 250 people will get that if you secure the deals with us tonight here with Simpler Law. Don't go anywhere, we've got so much more to tell you in the next couple of moments.
Hello and a very good morning and welcome to STV, to Shop on TV. ITV are already with us. I'm Hayley.
And I'm Sean.
And you've joined us for a really interesting show, a show that I think could give you the most amazing peace of mind. This is all about wills and lasting powers of attorney, and perhaps you've been thinking about doing a will, and why haven't you? I know we thought it'll all be okay because obviously we've been together 33 years. Everybody knows my money is Sean's, Sean's money is mine, and we presumed that is what would happen and discovered that is not the case at all. If you haven't got a written will, what you think is going to happen probably definitely won't.
You can't just assume when it comes to having a will or not having a will that everything will be okay, and we'll explain and give you some examples of what's happened to people. Now, not only are we joined by Simpler Law, who are experts in this, they're going to be talking about wills but also lasting powers of attorney. We're going to be talking you through that as well. We're going to run you through the offers straight away so that you can see that the first thing that put us off, we thought it'd cost hundreds and hundreds.
Well, it petrified me, and it's honestly so easy. But yeah, thought it would cost an absolute fortune. And even at full price, £180, I would pay that time and time again to have the peace of mind that I now know that if something happened to me, my money would go to Sean. If something happened to Sean, his money would go to me. If you think you don't own anything, it may be that ring that your mum left you. It may actually be your pet, what you want to happen to your dog. There's so many things that you can put into a will. Now tonight, if you secure the deal, that's all you're doing this evening, it will just cost £89, but actually you can split that cost over 4 payments of £22.25. And I want you to think about perhaps the takeaways you buy, or even just the coffee you buy in a month. I bet that cost is more than £22.25. It's so little cost for such amazing and huge peace of mind.
And that's what we say, isn't it? Peace of mind, that weight lifted off your shoulders because you've actually started that ball rolling.
And it's your last gift to your loved ones, to make sure your loved ones get what you want them to get. Otherwise, so easily, it could actually go to that person you didn't want to get anything. Now, lasting power of attorney, we'll go into that into more detail. We got this for my mum only just a couple of years ago. And funnily enough, with Simpler Law. They were amazing because, again, petrified me, made it so easy. And we'll talk through how that is so important for a loved one. Price-wise, £325 is the regular price. But look at our deal this evening, or this morning, £179.
Yeah, and again, you don't have to pay that full price. Simpler Law offering 4 interest-free payments, just £44.75 on your first of 4 payments there. And the best deal, if you like, is the combination if you go for a will and an LPA. With a usual price of £505, it's down to £249.
That's better than half price, isn't it? And again, you split the cost?
Yeah, £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments if you do want to spread the cost. Remember, the first 250 clients will also receive a free book. It's What My Family Should Know. It's worth £25.
That
it's
book
basically
is so good.
the document where you store everything, your bank accounts, your pensions, your insurance policies.
Your passwords.
But things like passwords.
Your phone and your tablet.
Social
your computer.
media. Yeah.
It could be that everybody, the family lose all the photographs you had because they can't get into your tablet, and you can put everything into this book. I truly think that every person on the planet should have this book. But you will get the first 250 people will actually get, just by securing the deal. And by securing the deal, all you need to do this morning is get in touch, and you can get in touch in so many different ways.
Really simple, really straightforward. We'll pop those details on the screen for you. So if you want to do it online, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. If you want to call, it's 0333 600 2600, and the team are in the call centre all the way through the show, right through till 3 a.m. They may be quite busy at this time of night because we have a big audience at this time of night, but if you don't want to call, or if you can't get through, you can text the word will. And when you do that, WILL to 66777, the team will get in touch with you tomorrow. So no one will get in touch with you
this
tonight.
morning, actually,
this morning.
after 11 o'clock, because we are tomorrow already. That text is fantastic. It's so simple, it's so quick, it's so easy. I do all the competitions with a text, and honestly, this will be a competition where you know you are the winner, because what you want to happen to you, what you own is going to happen when you write a will. But just do that tonight, get in touch, and you will receive then one of those fabulous books if you're one of the first 250 people. Now, if you forget all of that, but you know our website, ShopOnTV.co.uk, it's right there.
Yeah,
isn't
just
it?
click on the banner that says Simpler Law. It takes you through to all those offers. You just scroll down. It'll give you the other ways to get in touch if you want to use those, or you can just fill in that form directly from the website. And again, someone will be in touch with you. Now, we have just been joined by STV. And before we go more into detail, Ian, some of the laws are slightly different in Scotland, but you can do it for Scottish viewers as well.
Yeah, UK wide, so yeah, Scotland, Northern Ireland, yeah. The laws are ever so slightly different, and we're going to talk about lasting powers of attorney in Scotland. You can get a combined document rather than having two separate documents. But again, consultants like Charlotte can talk you through all of that. We do these shows so that you can make that all-important first step, and we can advise you along the way. We should stress that when we give you advice, obviously it's entirely up to you what advice you take. You know, you'll take all of it, you'll take some of it, or you'll take none of it. Our job is to put you in a position where you can make a fully informed decision. At the end of the day, we're the experts and we're responsible for giving you that advice, which is why every bit of advice and every document we produce is insured as well.
And the lovely thing is you really do go at our pace as well. You know, it's not complicated at all. But for anybody that hasn't heard of Simpler Law, Charlotte, why should they use Simpler Law for their wills?
This is all that we do. We specialise in estate planning. So, you know, and like we said before, it's a hand-holding service. We have 5-star Trustpilot reviews, which are named reviews as well. So people are actually taking the time to say, Charlotte, or to speak of myself, Jack or Meg.
So basically what you're saying,
I'll start with me.
Basically what Charlotte could have said is, actually, if you decide to go ahead tonight, you might get to speak to me. I'll look at you.
Even me.
If you're lucky enough, you will. But it just goes to show that we are taking that time, and you know, we are building those relationships.
You do. You become a friend, really.
You do.
It's quite incredible because you are just chatting. It's so easy because we thought I've got no clue.
Yeah.
But you just make it so simple.
It's the way the team put you at ease, isn't
yeah,
it?
completely.
Yeah, it's
because it is a
important.
scary thing, isn't it, for people?
Yeah, a lot of people find it really, really daunting, and it's just, you know, we take you to a dark place for a very short space of time to have that conversation. But the relief that you will feel once you've done it, the clients that I speak to when you get to the end of a consultation and go, oh, I'm so glad I've done that.
Yeah.
What a weight that's been lifted that you probably didn't even know that you actually had.
Yeah.
You know, you've said it already, and you never regret writing a will. You can't regret it, or a power of attorney, because it's doing something for you and your family that's so important.
And it is for your family as well. It could stop a family upset, you know, because and I know in families you often know what should happen, and you presume that's going to happen. But if there isn't a will, it doesn't happen, and that can cause such an upset. There can be such family fallouts, which wouldn't have happened if that will had been written. So it's that complete peace of mind. There's so many questions, and we'll run through lots of different questions, and there's so many different services as well, which we'll just have a little look at. That though we're talking about wills and lasting power of attorney, Ian, there's so much you do, all in the same sort of bubble. But so many different things. Yeah,
it's all within our group, so we don't outsource any of our work, which means that we can control the quality of our work to our clients and also the speed in which we can get the documents out to them. But you can see from the list there that's on the screen that it's wills and estate plan is obviously at the heart of what we do, but in addition to that we offer conveyancing service. The bereavement service that's mentioned on there is really the practicalities of what needs to happen next. So it's, again, without sounding patronising, it's a hand-holding service, because sometimes people are like, well, what do I do now?
You've got no idea.
No, I think when we talk about this hand-holding service, we don't want it to come across as patronising, but this is our job, day in, day out, and we appreciate that the vast majority of our clients is the first time that they've ever done it. It might be the only time they ever make a will, so we need to make sure that it's right for them. And you know, and everyone is different, and that's the whole point of doing these shows, is we want people to understand that this is really bespoke, that their situation is unique. When we draft a document, it can only be used by them and their family. You know, as we're about to talk about later in the show, you don't want the generic government will. You want your own will. But we understand that everyone's unique, and therefore some people will literally at the click of a finger go, I want this, this and this, and it's all done. Some people might need to take a little bit longer. Well, we'll go at a pace that suits you. We'll only draft your documents when you're happy with the advice we've given you and you're happy with the instructions you've given us. It's simple as that, so it's a two-way street. But ultimately, we kind of have all the questions that we need to ask, but you will have all the answers.
Yeah.
Because it's your will, it's your family. You tell us what you want and we make sure that happens. But we can only do that if you phone the client care team this morning, or if you don't want to speak to someone, just honestly just send the word will to 66777. We'll call you back later today.
Yeah, that's brilliant, isn't it? A great service. If you don't want to actually speak to anyone right now, as Ian said, just text the word.
I bet your phone as you're watching this is on the arm.
Yeah,
always.
always sat right by your phone, and it's so simple, and you've got that peace of mind that you've started. It's that one step to making sure what you want to happen does actually happen when you pass, and it is complete peace of mind. But why is it, Charlotte, so important to make a will? Because we presumed it would all be okay, and that's not the case at all, is it?
No, it's just, like we say, it's about you making that decision and you achieving what you want to. You work hard your whole life for what you do have, whether that is property, whether that is something you've inherited from a family member, whether it is a pet. You know, these are things that are important to you, so it's about making sure that they go where you want them to.
And what does happen if you don't write a will? Because I had no idea about this at all, because there is sort of a will out there that will come into place if you haven't written your own.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realise that. You might think, oh, I've not got a will in place, but actually by not writing a will, you do. So there's what's called, well, rules of intestacy, so it's a government will essentially, that if you don't have a will, you die what's called intestate. And unfortunately, it's very, very basic. It's been, how long has it been around
1925.
Yeah, 1925, and it's
so
changed
having
very
a
little.
Centenary next year, yeah.
Yeah.
Not a modern
changed.
document then.
Well, no, but it's
No.
interesting you pick up on that, because this was obviously put in place at a time when people got married and had 2 children and stayed married and had
Yes.
2 children, you know.
Because life is so complicated now, isn't it?
The last survey suggests that almost half of families in the UK now are a blended family, you know. In 1925, if you spoke to a couple and they said they were divorced and then remarried and had children from previous relationships, you know, they'd probably been burnt at the stake. But, but of course, today that's not unusual at all.
It's the new normal, isn't it?
But the rules haven't been able to move on because it is so complex. So if you don't make your own will, which again is why we do these shows, we want to tell people that there's a second thing going on that you may not be aware of, is the government are going to do one for you.
Yeah.
In fact, they already have, but they made it 100 years ago. And how can one set of rules suit millions of UK adults in situations? It doesn't. And without being melodramatic, that set of rules can rip families apart, literally and figuratively. It's awful.
And it's virtually a yes or no question.
The processes,
isn't it?
yeah.
So if it was a married couple, but they'd both been married before and had children from other families, you'd presume if one of them died, it would go to the other partner. And then when that partner died, it would go to all of the children, but that's not
which is often you keep shaking your head because you do it every day, but you're right.
It's awful, really, because like you say, it's just that assumption again, isn't it?
They've all lived together, they're a family.
Well, that's not an unusual outcome, you know. If you've got a couple that are together and they're on the second relationship and they might have children from a previous relationship, but they might have been on this second relationship, both of them, longer than they were in the first marriage, for example.
Yes, very true.
So, you know, they see themselves as a family. You know, that they might have 2 daughters who don't even refer to themselves as stepsisters. As far as they're concerned, the sisters. You know, and the parents probably don't get referred to as stepmom and stepdad. It's mum and dad. So they see themselves, understandably, as a family. Unfortunately, the law doesn't. So if you pass away without a will, it may very well be that the first question that's asked of the person that's passed away are you married or in a civil partnership?
So this is it. So you follow this chart.
That's the government will, obviously with some nice illustrations from us, but essentially that's the government will. And the first question that's asked is, are you married or in a civil partnership? So I think if we just hang on that question for a second, it doesn't ask are you partners, it doesn't ask are you lovers, it doesn't ask are you cohabiting, it's your legal marital status. Are you married or in a civil partnership? So it's a yes or no question. And if the answer is yes, then the likelihood is that everything's going to your spouse. In fairness, only the first £322,000 of your estate is guaranteed to go to your spouse.
Gosh.
But let's assume you've got a couple with a £200,000 house in the scenario we just talked about. If Mr. passed away, everything will go to his wife, so that seems okay. But then what they both assume is going to happen is that everything's going to go to both girls in equal shares, because that's what they want it to happen. But if they've not made a will, when Mrs. then passes away, all of it goes to her daughter only. It follows her bloodline. And we hear quite a lot that people say, oh, well, I'm sure it'll be fine because, you know, our Sarah will make sure that this person's looked after. But unfortunately, there's, without casting aspersions, there's no legal requirement.
Absolutely.
Once money's involved. And I don't know why you'd leave such a massive thing to chance when a quick phone call and for, like you say, less than the price of a coffee a week can can fix it all. So again, I stress, if you are watching this, well done for coping with my double chins and big nose, but if you are watching this, in all seriousness, you can do something amazing for yourself and your family. So, you know, send that text or speak to the client care team. They're there right now.
Absolutely, and the offers are amazing. Please, if you are thinking, oh gosh, I had no idea, that's our situation. Even if you're a single person, and we'll go into stories about a single person as well, where you'll think, oh, you know, it's just me, who am I going to leave it to? And honestly, you'll be blown away where it would go, and you wouldn't want that. So have a little look at how you can get in touch with us. Have a look at the deals. The deals are amazing. You're looking at the will right now. £180 is the normal price. £89 is your deal this morning, but you can split that cost over 4 payments, £22.25. And just like we were saying, that is probably less than you spend on coffee a month, and you have that peace of mind that what you want to happen is going to happen. So you could get in touch with, of course, Simpler Law on the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. Or the team are right there this morning and waiting for you. Because they're normally very busy, but do please get onto the phones. They will answer, and that is 0333 600 2600. But the most popular has been the text, and that's perhaps you don't want to speak to anybody
on these evening
morning.
shows. It has. If you've got your phone there, and this is what Ian always says, I bet your phone's sat right by you. Just get the ball started. Just put it in place. Make sure you secure the deal, and you're one of the first 250 to get that book that we talked about. Text the word WILL, WILL, to 66777. You can also get in touch via our website. If you go on ShopOnTV.co.uk, you'll see the Simpler Law banner just at the top of the page. Click on there and it takes you straight through to the offers and then all the contact details. And if you just want to fill in that form and submit that, you can do that as well. Remember, no one will get in touch with you before 11 o'clock this morning, because they'll know you've been up watching the show, so you don't have to worry about anybody waking you up too early. But if you want to speak to someone right now, just go through to the call centre. The team are there through till 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600. I think that's important to mention as well, the customer care team. You get great reviews, great Trustpilot reviews for your team. It's all about the people, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, Charlotte's a part of that team, and obviously we couldn't deliver the service that we deliver without people like Charlotte. Thankfully, we've got better people than Charlotte.
I was thinking he was being so lovely.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought someone else had come. I was like, who is this man?
I think what's nice for me personally is obviously you're dealing with Simpler Law, but actually you're dealing with our member of staff. You're dealing with a member of the client care team, and they understand, you know, that people's experiences of this are quite different, and they will hold your hand through the whole process. So when people do say that we've done a good job, it's actually very rare that a client will say Simpler Law did a good job. In all honesty, they'll say that Charlotte did a good job. Or believe it or not, we have another Charlotte as well, which I think we both take credit for each other.
There's only one Charlotte.
Well, in fact, we do have a review for a certain Charlotte that we're going to share with you.
It's probably me.
My consultation was done by Charlotte Benyon.
It is, yeah.
She was very professional, explained thoroughly each stage, making sure it was firstly what I wanted and that I also understood any advice she gave me. Excellent service. That's from Charles. We've got another one we want to share with you. And this is our experience, because we went through and did lasting power of attorney for Hayley's mum. It really is about the people you deal with. Nita said, I wanted to rewrite my will and saw the advert. When Ollie phoned me today, he was very helpful and provided me with excellent customer service, helping me and explaining things when I wasn't sure about something.
That was the best thing, because I really worry that I'm a bit daft and I'll ask the daftest questions. So, you know,
you can only know what you know.
That was a silly question. But yeah, I don't know anything about the law. But the nice thing was, I never felt I asked a silly question, because you put me at such peace of mind that I felt I could ask you anything.
If you've got a question, it's a valid one, isn't it? There isn't a silly question.
Exactly.
If you've got a doubt or a concern.
Sometimes you see, I'll go away with it still in my head because I daredn't say it. But I wasn't in that situation at all with Simpler Law. It just made me realise I could ask anything.
We'll encourage you to ask as many questions as you've got. We want you to go away happy, and you know that's the way that we can help you. You know, the more you tell us, the better our advice is to you.
And Ian, everybody should write to us, shouldn't they? Because tell us the story about the guy on his own. I always ask you to tell this story, because if I was on my own, I probably wouldn't even think of writing a will, because I would think it wasn't not really important.
Don't need
who am I going to, you know, I'm not with a partner yet. I'll wait till I'm perhaps with a partner, perhaps wait till perhaps I've got children. Why should I write a will now?
Yeah, sadly, unfortunately, when people do put things off, if life throws them a curveball sooner than they thought it was going to throw them that curveball, it's only then that everything comes to light, what can go wrong. The story that resonated with me and has since resonated with you was about the medical professional who was only in his 40s. So he was in his late 40s. He was an academic. He was very successful in his field. He passed away unexpectedly and suddenly, but the backstory was that when he was born, his father left the family. So decided that he didn't want to be in that relationship anymore and he didn't want anything to do with his son. So whatever reason he had for doing that, that's what he did. So he left the family. So he left this poor guy and his brother to be brought up by his mum. So fast forward 4 decades plus, he's had no contact with his dad. His dad's not even considered part of their life. He's died unexpectedly. We'll never know why he didn't make a will. We'll never know what his rationale was, whether he knew that he was going to get the government will, but he was young, so he put it off. We'll never be able to ask that question. But sadly, he didn't make a will, so he's said to have died intestate, so he gets the government will. The first question that's asked of him was, are you married or in a civil partnership? The answer was no. That takes you to the next question, which is, do you have children? He'd never had children neither, so the answer to that question was no. That took him to the next question, which was, do you have parents? And the answer was yes, because his mum was actually, his mum and his surviving brother were the ones telling this story. And she then had to, having lost a son, which is traumatic enough,
Absolutely.
then has to track down an ex-husband who left all those years ago and had no contact with the son, was not part of their lives at all, to say you're entitled to half of his estate.
Oh, my
That makes you feel
goodness.
sick, and he wouldn't have wanted that. He wouldn't want to put his mum through that, but you just don't realise.
No, and I think, you know, I think any logical, reasonable, rational person would say what you said, is he wouldn't have wanted that.
No.
But unfortunately, we'll never know why he didn't make a will, and therefore that's what happened. And this is really what is scary and sometimes frustrating, is that can be fixed with a 15-minute, half an hour phone call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and not a great deal of stress, if any, and certainly not a great deal of expense. But unfortunately, people, again, we come back to this assumption, this misbelief, this misconception that I'm sure everything will be okay. I'm sure if he understood exactly that's what could have happened, that he might have acted,
yeah.
but maybe he put it off because he was only in his 40s.
Yeah.
But all
Just didn't get round to it. I think that's the
Yeah.
thing for most people. It's what you said when you say you're a will writer. Most people
I've been
say,
thinking about making it.
"I'm
Yeah.
writing a will."
And now we talk to people about the same, say,
And
oh,
we
do
preach it.
will
You do, don't you?
power of
Nowadays?
attorney, and they're like, oh, we haven't written out a will. I'm like, you are joking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some people that have got a lot, and you think that's crazy. But actually, it doesn't matter how much you've got.
No.
It may actually be, I mean, if
Could be the smallest, most personal thing.
it
couldn't
could.
It
Or it-
could be a
Yeah, an
pet, like
heirloom
you
or
say.
pets.
No,
You know,
where the pets
it's what's
come from.
important to you, and it's again, it's about you having that control and you making that decision for yourself and
Yeah.
saying, you know, this is important to me, and I want to make sure it goes to the right person.
and it's not material things. So if you've got children, what happens if awfully two parents
Both parents
are killed
passed
in an
at the same
accident?
time.
Yeah, so if you've written a will, then great, because you'll have put a guardianship clause in there to state who you would trust to take care of your children until they're obviously of the age of 18. If you haven't done a will, then unfortunately you haven't stipulated that. So you're essentially relying on the right person to step forward. And if you've not had that conversation, which sometimes families don't do, your family members might not actually know who you would have chosen.
No.
You know, if you're close to both sets of parents, for example.
And they might fight saying it should be me.
This is the thing, if they both then step forward and there can be conflict, this is again where you can cause, you know, breakups within families. And you've got to remember, you've got two, or well, however many children you've got, let's say 2 children under the age of 18 that have not only lost their parents, but then watching a family dispute, which most likely will go to court, and then worst case scenario, those children can actually become a ward of court and actually not go to those family or friends and end up in the system.
Gosh.
And it's a very worst case scenario, but it can happen. And again, all it's taking is for you to pick up the phone and take that 30 minutes, 45 minutes to say, actually, this is who I'd like to look after my children. Have you had that conversation with those people?
And this is just some of the things that you can do with your will. It's completely up to you. It's so important. We've seen just from a couple of scenarios there, but Ian, why do you think People should choose simpler law when
This
writing a will.
this is all we do. This is what we specialise in. So we made a decision very, very long ago to just do this one thing. So we'd like to be an expert of one area, and I think we are. So it's very, very rare there's a scenario that we've come across that we can't help our clients. In fact, I can't think of one. So we understand that this can be a different experience for each client. So we don't go into it with one size fits all, which is, you know, we're talking about the government will, which is that is exactly what this does. We'll put you at the heart of what we do, and we'll understand that for some people they'll need to take a little bit longer than others. Sometimes we get terrified if a client says mine's dead simple.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, brace yourself.
Here we go.
And weirdly, sometimes people have put off making a will because they think it's going to be complicated or their situation's really complex. And actually, you know, for us, because this is what we do day in, day out, we can help you with that. It's actually, for us, relatively straightforward. We'll make sure that you're happy with everything that we've done before you even get a document. So, you know, throughout this process, we'll give you all the appropriate advice. It's then up to you what you do with that advice. You'll take all of it, some of it. You can take none of it at all. You've got to be happy with the instructions you've given us, and then we produce the document. But it doesn't end there neither, because then we'll contact you to make sure you're in safe receipt, make sure you understand it, and we'll also make sure that it's all signed, dated and witnessed correctly. Because even in this digital age, a document, a will isn't actually valid until it's got a wet signature on it. It's being witnessed by 2 independent witnesses.
Well,
so we help with all of that as well.
That's something that we did wrong, isn't it?
Yeah, and which you were great at.
Your team
one of the
clocked it straight away.
witnesses who we've known for years and always known as one name, it was actually her middle name. We didn't know that, and when she filled in the form, she signed as her, you know, as a one name, and then when she printed, it was the other way around, and you saw that, and that would have been completely wrong if we hadn't have had that corrected.
I mean, that's a perfect example of why you use a professional company like ours, because, you know, lay people.
We wouldn't have spotted.
No, we can only know what we know. I mean, I joke. Some people will take the Michael out of me for saying that I know this area, but you know. If my car breaks down, I'm going to take it to a mechanic. If I've got a toothache, I'm going to go to a dentist. You should go to the professional that you need to use in that field, and that's what we do. We will pick up on mistakes that some people won't. It's our job as well.
Because there are templates, aren't there?
Oh, God, yeah.
And
you love this, don't you?
I've been putting off saying it because I know it upsets you, but there are templates. And friends of ours, they have written a template will, and we were still like, you've got to change it.
We were mortified when they told us.
Because though you think you've now written down what you want,
well, ask them to send us a copy, and we can give some feedback on it. They might have done an okay job, but how do they know?
No,
they don't, because they're not experts. You're experts.
And what happens if they haven't written it quite correctly, or if it's not written in the right words,
if it's not witnessed properly?
In worst case scenario, it can fail. I mean, let's be really clear. Making a will is an incredibly selfless thing. You will find the process cathartic. Charlotte's already mentioned that at the end of a consultation, clients will say, I'm glad I've done that. No one gets to the end of a consultation and goes, oh, I wish I'd not done that. Yeah. You know, at the end of it, it's like, I can tick that box, I can just get on with my life because I've done something amazing. And sometimes they'll find something out throughout that consultation, throughout that journey, that they couldn't have possibly known until they start on it. So again, that's why we do these shows. If you're thinking about making it, we'll take that all important first step. But essentially, once we engage with you, we'll send you some information that says, think about this. We'll then book a time to speak to you that's convenient to you. We'll then hold your hand through the whole process without being patronising about it. We want to make sure that you're happy with everything. Once you've got that document, we'll make sure you're in safe receipt and understand it, and we'll help to make sure that it's signed, witnessed and dated correctly and is all valid. And if we make a mistake, we're insured for £5 million. So if we make a mistake, you or your family can come back to us. Now, touch wood, we've never had a will fail, because we're professionals at what we do. So coming back to your question of a template, well, the template's going to give you no advice. If you make a mistake, who are you going to turn to?
You won't even know until it comes to the case when you want to use it.
The worst thing with the template as well is that you've actually made that decision to do a will.
That's exactly right,
Yes.
So you've taken that step and you just haven't had it checked correctly or gone to the right person.
Well, at the risk of boring you and the viewers, so cut me off if it becomes boring, because sometimes I'm unaware of how dull I am. We were in an estate planning review, so obviously we're dealing with cases that are going through probate and estate administration. We're helping different types of people with that process as well. And funnily enough, only this week, there's a case where a gentleman owned his property outright. He's married. He's got children from a previous relationship. His wife's got children from a previous relationship. He's written his own will and he wanted to leave everything to his wife. Now there's dangers with that because that might mean that his wife's children end up inheriting everything and not his. So he's not thought about that because he's done a template.
Right.
But it's got a little bit worse than that because unfortunately he didn't get the will signed and dated correctly. So we can see that his intention was to give everything to his wife, but the will's failed. So he's died intestate. So he's died with the government will, which now says that his wife only gets the first £322,000 of his estate and his house is worth considerably more than that. And now his children are saying that they want their share, which they're now entitled to. So his wife, who's now a widow, and you've got to, it's really awful. Yeah, it's really awful. You know, emotions are already high. It's an awful time. Now, unfortunately, his wife's been put in a position where she's got to almost make a claim. Well, she has got to make a claim against the late husband's estate because effectively, through not having a will, he's not made enough provision for her. So she's almost going head to head with his children now. And we've got a handwritten will on a template that shows that's not what.
And if he's looking down, he'd be heartbroken.
But he'll
and
he'll have probably paid some money for that template as well. But there was no one there to give him advice, and there's no one that the family can turn to blame now.
No.
And it's just, that's really sad, and unfortunately this happens all too often. So again, I'm going to try and change my whiny tone because I can, but we want to encourage people to pick up the phone because we don't want that to be you.
Yeah.
And people don't think it's going to be them until it is. And honestly, one thing to take away from this show is you don't want to pass away with a government will.
No.
Why would you want to let the government have the last say about what happens to your estate? Take control, do something amazing for yourself and your family.
Every situation we've talked about, whether that is a person on their own, whether that is a couple like Sean and myself that have been together 33 years, but we wouldn't have gone to each other, you know, if one of us had passed before we had written the will, and we only wrote a will just recently.
And we look at it.
We didn't realise that.
It's our money, don't we?
Yeah,
all of it.
absolutely.
Ours.
That's
And
not what
then-
Hayley was saying to me earlier. But
Oh my!
Whatever she told you.
But then if you've remarried and then you know and you've got children from different marriages, it's so complicated. But in all of those situations, what you actually want to happen wouldn't happen, doesn't happen unless you write a will. And look at the price. Look at the price of everything that we've got available. The offers are absolutely incredible tonight. You can see there your family and estate will. Normally, I thought it'd be really expensive. Normally, it's only £180. So I would have been quite happy with that. But actually, if you secure the deal tonight, this morning, £89 is your price. And the really great thing is, you also have the opportunity to split that cost over 4 payments. £22.25 is the first of those 4 payments. And that, if you think about what you spend a month, what do you spend on coffee a month? And I know I say this quite a lot, but I think I couldn't believe how much coffee is. Yeah, easily. That could be spent in one coffee trip to buy a few friends of coffee, and it's gone. And that is your will, knowing what you want to happen happens, and what you don't want to happen isn't going to happen, because that is the other thing. Perhaps your money could go to a family member that you really didn't want to have it. It's, you know, it works both ways, doesn't it? But then we've got lasting power of attorney, and we're going to go on to this now.
We are going to talk about it in just a moment for you. So the offer that we've got, lasting power of attorney, £325 is the usual price. It's down to £179. And with the flexible payments, the interest-free payments, only £44.75 on your first of 4 payments if you want to spread that cost with simpler law. The best value, however, is the combination. If you want a will and an LPA, £505 is the price it should be. £249 is the offer price. We've got it. And £62.25 on your first of 4 payments. Remember, first 250 clients will also receive that What My Family Should Know book. It's worth £25. In that book, you can have all the essentials. When someone passes, you don't have to search all around the house for all and everything.
And if you're like my mum, you know, everything will be hidden. She'll know where everything is. We haven't got a clue at all. Sometimes she can't remember where she put it. I know I put it somewhere safe. And that safe place, you need to know where that safe place is. This is your safe place.
Yeah.
I truly think, and I do say you should have this from birth, but that's perhaps a little bit too early. But I truly think that every person should have this book, because it's not just your bank accounts and your pensions and things like that. And we'll talk about actually how much money is lost in pensions and things. But this is about your passwords to your phone and your tablet. Where are all your photographs? You know, and your family could lose all of those photographs.
Pets
could be
and
gone.
animals.
Yeah.
Wishes for when you do pass, what you want at the funeral.
Yeah.
You can put all
it
of
just makes
this.
it so easy. And your funeral, what you'd like to happen in your funeral and things, because sometimes that's really difficult to sit down and talk about.
Yeah.
Whereas it can be all written down, what they, you know, what they want, what you want is going to happen, which is fabulous. It's an amazing.
All those essentials all in one place for you. First 250 people, remember, will get hold of that.
And all you need to do is secure the deal tonight. You don't need to know anything. You don't need to go and let loads of pieces of paper out. Honestly, you really don't need to go into this knowing anything. Simpler Law will talk to you and talk all of the answers out of you, just so it's like an easy conversation. All you need to do is secure the deals, and these are the deals we've got tonight, which are amazing. Amazing prices. You're seeing the will price right there, £180 down to £89, and you can split it over 4 payments. If you want to go for any of the deals, you can either get in contact on the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV, and they'll get back to you later on today. Or you can jump on the phones. The team are there right now, aren't they?
Yeah, right through till 3 a.m. The client care team will be there for you. So if you want to speak to someone, 0333 600 2600.
And you can ask a couple of questions tonight, but honestly,
many.
they will be busy. Just, you know, let them get back to you tomorrow, but do jump onto the phones. They're there, ready and waiting. But the biggest and the most popular way to get in touch is actually by just texting. Texting Will to 66777. It's as simple as that, and someone will get back in touch with you. We keep saying tomorrow, but actually later on today, because of course it is tomorrow already. So after 11 o'clock, they know that you stayed up late with us, and that's so easy, isn't it, to do that? If you're just thinking, well, I don't really want to talk to someone just now, but I do want to secure that deal, I do want to get that book, I do know I need to get that will done. It's that first step, that peace of mind. But actually, if you forget all of that, but you know our website.
Yeah, you can go straight through to shopontv.co.uk. You can click on the Simpler Law banner. You'll see the offers there. You scroll down, all the ways to get in touch, or you can just fill in that contact form that you see just there. Dead simple, dead straightforward for you. So whatever you want to go for, it's about securing the offer so that you get that book and you just start the ball rolling, especially when it comes to a will or an LPA. And we're going to talk about LPAs now.
Yeah, I think we should go into the LPAs, because I do think a lot of people will think, well, I know what a will is. Well, take a look. This is your will. I know what a will is. I know what I need. I know what I need to do. So you can have a little nosy and have a look at what a will can do for you, because this is what we're talking you through. What you want to happen won't happen. So, Charlotte, you won't be able to choose your own executors if you haven't written a will.
No, so a lot of people assume a will is just where you want your estate to go, but it's so much more than that. Like you say, it's about having the choice, choosing your own executors. As we've said, deciding who inherits, but what age do they inherit? If you've got children under the age of 18,
gosh, yes.
do you want them to inherit 18?
Yeah.
We've all been that age before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of a
So
sudden you've got
Maybe
all
not.
of this. Yeah.
exactly.
So you could alter it to 21 or...
Yeah, even at 21, 25, sometimes even older. Again,
Right.
it is about making that choice. And also, it's about deciding who you maybe don't want to inherit.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, there are families out there that could be estranged from children, or, as you've already said, parents, family members, you know, anybody that you think, actually, I don't want this person to inherit.
Right.
You can also exclude somebody from your will.
Those
So-
fridge magnets exist for a reason, don't they? Say friends of the family you choose for
Yeah,
yourself.
exactly.
In some
Very
cases,
true,
yeah,
yeah.
sadly in some
Yeah.
cases, blood isn't thicker than water.
Yeah.
No, it's not. So again, it's having that choice and making sure what you want to happen
Getting what you want.
happens.
That's
Exactly.
On the screen there's a generic list of what you
Yeah.
can do when you make your own will, but of course it's your will. The whole point of making a will and the whole point of that list there is you take control. You choose. When we talk about executors, that's the person that you're entrusting to actually make sure your wishes are carried out. So you decide that. If you pass away without a will, you don't even know who's going to be the person that's entering your house and going through your paperwork and dealing with
don't.
everything.
Oh, no.
The thing for me that always resonates as a parent as well is the guardianship, because most parents would have an idea of where they would want their children to go if, God forbid, anything happened to them. But if it's not legally documented, then someone that's never met you, never met your children, is basically, and never met the people that are coming forward to say, I want to be guardians.
Yeah.
So a stranger's going to be making that decision. So again, you know, it's not enough to have a pint with your best mate or to say my sister knows what she wants to happen, because, you know, we live in a land of law.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you've got children in school, you'll know if you've ever had to sign anything, that at the bottom it says parent or guardian. It's a legal status. So, you know, you can bequeath, if you like, your parental responsibility through your will. So a will is very personal, but can do a lot more than people think. Because most people, and understandably, think it's a piece of paper. This is where I leave my money to this person.
Yeah, and I think that's what you do. You just think about your money. You don't think about your children. You don't think about your pets. You know, there's so many things. You might think I haven't got anything, but actually you have got so much that you would want to look after if you weren't here. And it allows you to do exactly that. And I know you'll be sat at home thinking, I do understand that, but I thought so-and-so would happen. What you want to happen won't happen unless you write a will. And it's so important to do that. And all the details on the screen are for that will and securing that deal tonight. But we are going into lasting power of attorney now. And though I said, you know, I do think you'll have heard of a will. I do think you'd have an idea about a will, but not what happens if you don't have one. I think an LPA, lots of people won't have even heard of.
Until you experience it, I don't think you know what it's all about, and we're going to tell you exactly what it's all about and why you might need it. I say might need it. It's a document, like you describe it a little bit like an insurance document. It's not an insurance document.
Yeah. It's
something that you should have, but hopefully never use.
Yeah, you know, there's an inevitability to using a will. So obviously we know that at some point there's going to be that point in need. A will's going to be used, so it's really important to have a will. A lasting power of attorney, truthfully, is a document you want to have in place and then hope that your family never need to use it.
Yeah.
A lasting power of attorney is all about from now until the will needs to be read. What happens if life throws you a curveball in between? So we're all living longer, unfortunately. Dementia is prevalent. Our charity of choice this year is the Alzheimer's Society for that reason. But you know, you can be incapacitated at any age through accident or illness as well. And if you find yourself in a position where you can't make decisions for yourself, the lasting power of attorney is a vehicle where you can donate your power to someone and say, this is the person or these are the people that I would trust to effectively step into my shoes. Right. And unfortunately, if you don't have that in place at the time where you lose capacity, the only person that can make a lasting power of attorney is you. When you have capacity, so when it's too late, sadly it's too late. The worst phone calls we get in the office, truthfully, Mr. and Mrs. Smith might phone us and say, oh, you did our wills and lasting power of attorney for us last year. Can you help my father? And we're like, of course we can, yeah, we're happy to do that. We do a lot of business on referrals, as you appreciate, but then they'll follow that up with he's just being diagnosed with dementia. And then we can still assist, but we have to go in a much more expensive and really long route. It's awful. So the only time to actually put a lasting power of attorney in place, and a will for that matter, is now. Because you've got your faculties now, you've got mental capacity, you know, so, you know, tomorrow's not promised, so it's like just get it in place. We spend a lot of money on things that we've never claimed on, with coming back to sort of the insurance analogy. You know, people will have boiler insurance. They'll spend a fortune on the cat or the dog on pet insurance. You know, we'll insure our phones. You know, most people will have the contents insured and might have never made a claim on the house insurance, you know, where they've paid hundreds and hundreds of pounds a year for decades and never made a claim. And so we'll protect these things. We'll protect these things that we see every day, and we sometimes forget to look after ourselves and our family when it comes to personal matters. A lasting power of attorney doesn't make incapacity or an illness any easier, but what it does do is it doesn't make it worse. Because if anyone's got any experience of dementia, and it's heartbreaking, a lasting power of attorney is not going to make that situation better. But what it does do is it means that the family are so grateful that person did it, because they haven't got the extra heartache, the extra expense and the extra pain of now trying to help that person whilst watching a loved one go through what they're going through. Again, it's a really selfless thing to do. But at the same time, you also know then that you are giving your power to someone that you trust. And it's usually your spouse or your partner or your children, or it could be the closest friend. But again, there's usually someone in your circle that's the person I would want to look after me and make decisions. So that's why you do a lasting power of attorney.
There's a lot of misconceptions, isn't there? Because I presumed, you know, I look after mum, so I presumed if she wasn't able to look after herself, that obviously I'd be able to do everything, but it's not the case, is it?
No.
Everybody knows that I'm a daughter, but it's not the case
Yes,
by law.
similar to the misconceptions around wills, really. It's just that lack of knowledge and the assumption again, or like you've said, Ian, the hope, that you just hope that's going to happen. You know, married couple, or you've been together for so long, why would you not be able to make that decision for somebody? But like you've already said, Ian, if, as we stand now, if you've got capacity, you can't just access that person's bank accounts. So
No, it's so true. If you think about it, if we ring up perhaps over a bill, they'll say, well, is your mum there?
Yeah.
Well, I
Get
have,
through
I,
data
I have checked
protection.
my bank account today, and I am suspicious that my wife is accessing my account without my knowledge.
probably is.
Good luck.
Yeah. But you've got to go through that data protection.
Yeah.
So why, when someone's then vulnerable and unable to make that decision for themselves, would it be any different?
it doesn't make sense.
But I
And
just
you-
don't think you think about you
No.
don't think about it that way, do you? Like you said, unless you've been through it yourselves or you've experienced it through somebody else. If we had a crystal ball and we knew it was going to happen,
Yeah.
you'd just do it, wouldn't
Yeah,
you?
yeah,
Without
yeah.
hesitation.
But it's too late, isn't it?
it's just
something
not the
that
case.
has to be done now, and whatever age you are as well. And it's something we
Yeah.
must do, and bizarrely
We said
haven't
after
done.
the
We
last
said we
show.
must speak to you because we must do it. Because you just don't know what's around the corner. You keep thinking you're 20, aren't you? But actually, it doesn't matter what age you are. We don't know what's going to happen, what's around the corner, how long we're going to be here, and you want to make sure that it's done right now, so it's in place. If it may never need to be used, and you know, but it is that insurance.
No.
Because there's two. Isn't
I was
there?
just
So,
going to
yeah,
say
different
exactly the
ones.
same thing.
Yeah.
There is, there's two types of power of attorney. So if you're in Scotland, it combines as one document.
Right.
And again, just to reiterate for our viewers in Scotland, you can deal with all the Scottish law as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can produce it as one document, so it's called a continuing welfare power of attorney. I had to think then.
Well done.
This is my job. I was thinking on the spot. So it's combined as one document, but essentially there are two documents when you're in the UK. So
Yeah.
one document is property and finance.
Right.
So that one, essentially, whoever you nominate, it means that person can access your bank accounts, they can claim pensions if you're receiving any benefits,
So they could be paying your house
pay bills,
and things like that.
exactly, yeah, manage your property as well if you've got property. The other document is called health and welfare. So that one is whoever you nominate again can decide where you're living. So if they want you to live at home with them, they can make that decision. They can discuss medication, even things down to what you're eating and what you're wearing,
Yeah.
which sound a bit trivial, but actually they can be really, really important
That's
if you're
taken out your hands.
yeah, if you're a vegetarian, for example. If you haven't got the capacity to say that,
No.
you need to trust
My best
someone that
friend
they
was
can do that for you.
knocked down by a car, and she's been in a home for 9 years, and she is a vegetarian, but no one would have known. They could have fed her all and
Yeah.
everything
Yeah,
if
yeah,
someone hadn't have been in control of that.
exactly.
The health and welfare is really an emotive thing. I think
Yeah.
most people can get their head around the finance
Yeah.
side of it because
We
money
came
makes the
to you
world
to
go
do
around.
finance, but ended up doing both because it just made complete sense.
Well, there's not. I mean, obviously the bespoke documents for property and finance and for health and welfare, but the health and welfare could be argued that's even more important than
yeah,
the money one because
yeah.
that's how your loved one's cared for. You know, there's plenty of horror stories. You only have to go on social media and see people being arrested because they've tried to take the parents out of care home, even just for a day or two, and they're not allowed to do that because they've not got the authority to do that. Whereas if the person who's lost capacity had done a lasting power of attorney, they'd have passed that on. I made light earlier, that Jeannie's accessed my bank account, my wife, but Jeannie and I have had lasting powers of attorney in place for the last 17 years. We just hope that we never need to use it, but we've done that for each other because we know that if life throws us a curveball, we don't want to make that situation any worse. And as I said, in the nicest possible way, this is going to sound really weird, I would love it if it was a waste of money. Because that means you put it in place and then your
Yeah.
family never needed it. Well, that's great because you've had your health. But I come back to, we'll spend money on lots of things that are meaningless. You freak me out with the coffee thing with the.
But it's true, isn't
Well,
it?
I stop.
Well, how much they are now.
Well, I stop at a certain coffee establishment on my way to and from the office, and I've had to cut it back because I'm like, well, how much am I?
Hey,
I
listen.
take a
So
didn't
much
take a
now.
breath when they tell you how much. How much? It's water and coffee.
Like a meal.
Here's where I have to question my sanity. I'll walk in a supermarket, and if my brand of coffee isn't on offer, I go, I'm not paying £6 for that, and I'll put it back. 5 minutes later, I'm paying £6 for one cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I mean is we will spend money on things that we want to spend money on, and we won't necessarily think about ourselves. So we will insure things like boilers, pets, our phone, our home, our car. We'll insure all these tangible assets. We'll pay hundreds, if not thousands of pounds a year on things like that, when for £179,
Yeah.
You can
Crazy,
do
isn't it?
something amazing. That's a one-off payment, or you know, take the 4 interest-free payment
We
options. It's not
bought a
expensive.
telly, didn't we, the other day, and they offered us a 3-year insurance on the telly, warranty like for £30, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And actually the telly wasn't much more really, and we thought, well, probably in years to come, that telly will probably be, you know, it just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But people will do that policy.
The expense that your family or your loved ones could incur by not having a lasting
Yeah, because
power of
what
attorney.
does
Yeah.
happen
Let's
then
talk
if,
about that, yeah.
if we haven't got LPA?
And we've lost capacity.
That's when the situation gets really bad. So in that scenario that I said earlier about the too late phone call, it's an awful thing to call them, but that's exactly what they are.
Yeah.
Is unfortunately, if you've lost capacity, you now can't make a lasting power of attorney. So the only option for your loved ones, and again, you don't know who that's going to be. It might be someone that you don't want to put themselves forward.
Yeah.
You have to apply for something called a deputyship order through the Court of Protection. That is the only route to go. Now, unfortunately, that's not only very expensive, it takes a phenomenal amount of time. If you have a lasting power of attorney, it has to be registered with a body called the Office of Public Guardian. They may charge a registration fee. It varies from £0, £41 or £82, depending on your situation. So just bear those fees in mind alongside what we charge for drafting it. So we're talking a few £100 at the most. But if you have a look at what's on the screen there, just to apply to the court, you're paying £371 just to get the ball rolling.
Just to apply.
Then there's an assessment fee which they're going to charge £100 for. The hearing fee, if they ask for a hearing, is £494, and then the court actually supervises the deputy to make sure that they are, you know, behaving properly with the money, if you like, and that's an annual payment of £320 a year. So, as you can see there, there's just under £1,300 of costs, and that's if you do it yourself. And unfortunately, because it's a court process and you're dealing with a court, and when you see the paperwork, it's like this.
Yeah.
Is most people have to turn to a professional either like us, or they'll use a solicitor, for example, and then those fees skyrocket. So it's not only the expense which is awful, but the amount of time it can take, up to 12 months. Our experience is it's taking over a year for the deputyship order to be granted, whereas you can have a lasting...
A year?
Yeah.
So your loved one could be poorly, needing you
Yeah.
to help them in whatever, you know.
Just in day-to-day life.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you can't do anything
You can't do
for a
anything
year.
during that year.
This is the double whammy, if you like, is you're having to deal with someone that you love who's going through something awful, and then there's a realisation of you can't help them. You can't step into their shoes, even though you both know that that's what you would want. The law prevents you from doing that. Understandably, every institution that person dealt with is not going to speak to you. Have you ever tried to speak to a company where you're not the account holder?
It's
You-
so
The
true.
door-
Unless
Yeah,
you're going to
so
commit
true.
fraud and pretend to be that person,
Right.
you're not going to be able to
Yeah.
do anything. And let's be honest, you're not going to want to commit fraud. So, by having a lasting power of attorney, you've done something really selfless for your family, but you've done something great for yourself, because you also know that it's that person or those people that are going to step into your shoes. So, again, it's one of those documents you want to have and then just hope that you don't need it.
So, and if our viewers want to set up an LPA today, what do they need to have ready?
Nothing, just a working phone number.
Great.
So, you know, the team are there now, the client care team. So Charlotte's colleagues are sat in the office now, ready to take your call. So 0333 600 2600. You don't have to know about your attorneys. You don't have to know exactly who you would choose for this. We'll talk you through all of that at the time that's convenient for you. All you have to do this morning is say, do you know what, that seems like a really good idea. I'm going to put that in place. Likewise with a will. So you can speak to the client care team. They're there now. It's obviously getting on this morning, so if you don't want to speak to us, just text the word will to 66777. We will call you back later today. But if you make that decision to do that, you won't regret it. No. I always, when I say it sounds dead cheesy, but it's true. No one ever regrets putting estate planning in place, but sadly your family might regret that you didn't. So do something that's really amazing, not just for you, but for your family as well, because it is selfless. Having an LPA is selfless. Having a will is selfless, and it changes an awful time. Well, no, let me be clear about this. It doesn't make an awful time better, but what it does by having a will or a lasting power of attorney, it doesn't make an awful situation worse.
Doesn't make
That's,
any worse.
and that's the
yeah.
thing. And if
Yeah.
you haven't got a will or lasting power of attorney, it can make it so much worse.
And really bad in some situations,
you're
like family
broken
breakdowns
anyhow,
or
that's it, yeah.
yeah.
You're broken anyhow because you've
Yeah.
lost a loved one, and then all of a sudden there's a big family upset, and you know, you read about it, it happens often, and that is just like insane, making it 1,000 times worse if it could be worse. And what you're doing if you're writing a will or a lasting power of attorney is you're giving yourself that peace of mind that you know what you want to happen is going to happen, and whether that is your will and your belongings and what you own, or whether that is actually for you if you weren't able to do it for yourself.
Yeah, it's so important, and the deals that Simpler Law offer are absolutely fabulous. So, lasting power of attorney, there's 2 different types, remember. We're just going to summarise on the financial, the property and affairs for you. We're going to summarise those. As you can see, this is all the details that we're talking about when it comes to property and affairs, Charlotte, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the property and financial power of attorney allows you to nominate that person that you trust, whether it is a friend, whether it is a family, to access bank accounts so they can pay bills.
Great.
They can claim pensions, they can claim benefits if you're receiving benefits, they can manage property if you do own property, anything to do with your finances, and obviously if you do have a property as well, they can step forward and essentially become you in that scenario and make those decisions for you on those documents.
That's nowhere near an exhaustive list on there, really.
No.
There's just the summary at the bottom, it really sort of states what a lasting power of attorney does. You choose someone that you trust who would step into your shoes and basically carry on dealing with your affairs the way that you would want them dealt with. So it's an incredibly valuable document. And it's got the powers in the title because it's incredibly powerful as well.
It is.
So again, it's just one of these documents that you want to have in place and hope that you don't need to use it. So it's very different to a will, obviously, because a will's inevitable, it will get used. A lasting power of attorney is just incredibly powerful, and if your family's going through something awful, without a lasting power of attorney, that awful thing can be made so much worse. So it's back to this selfless act. You could do something absolutely amazing for your family and for yourself this morning.
Now, when we did the lasting power of attorney, we came for that lasting power of attorney. But when we spoke to you, and again, you just held our hand, made it so easy. My mum is petrified of all and everything, and I'm very, very much the same. So we were like the worst people you could ever have. And it was so simple. We were both sat there dreading
I was
the
amazed
conversation.
because
and
afterwards, they were both so chilled. They never chilled about anything.
Yeah.
And they were both so chilled about it because the ladies that you dealt with were so good at just making you feel relaxed, not making you feel stupid.
It was
like
just
you
a
say.
conversation, and we knew we could ask anything. I mean, obviously, Mum did most of the talking, but I could just chip in and just say, and it was brilliant, and it just was so simple to do. So
and again, very clear that your mum was in charge of everything.
I was there for her support,
Yeah.
but it was everything that Mum said that.
The bottom line is what your mum did is take control
Yeah.
and do something amazing for herself and say, if the worst does happen, this is what I want to happen, so you can then forget about it. And that for me, why we do these shows, we want people to take control and understand that if life throws them a curveball, it doesn't have to be made worse. There's, you can do something really incredible for your family. And, circling back to wills, you've worked hard for everything that you've got and the people around you love, so you want to make sure that everything you've worked hard for is going to go where you want it to go and not according to a set of rules that was created by the government in 1925.
Yeah.
So this for me is about taking control, and unfortunately people aren't aware that they need to take control because they think, and I understand why in some cases, they think everything's going to be okay, but unfortunately when it's too late, then it is too late, and you can't put the genie back in the bottle once it's out. So do something amazing for your family today.
And let's reiterate all the offers that Simpler Law have got for us, and obviously how to get in touch, because that's really simple and straightforward too. So we'll start with your family and estate will. If you just want the will, suggested retail price or a usual price of £180 comes down to £89. And Simpler Law are also going to offer you interest-free payments. So if you want to take advantage of 4 interest-free payments, £22.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments.
And we are going to go back to wills, and so important. Honestly, what you think is going to happen, it isn't going to happen. It's not going to go to who you think it's going to go to, honestly, and stay with us to make you, I want you to understand, because we didn't realise, we presumed everything I owned would go to Sean, everything Sean owns would go to me. We've been together 33 years. Everybody knows that's how we'd want it to be. It wouldn't have happened at all. Lasting power of attorney we've just spoken about, and is so important, and we will go through as well the health just quickly afterwards as well. And that was, we hadn't rung actually and spoken to do that lasting power of attorney, but we did do it because I think that's just as important as the finance. You can see there, £179 is your price today with ShopOnTV, should be £325. All you're doing today is securing the deal, and you can split that cost as well, which is brilliant, over 4 payments. So £44.75 is the first of those 4 payments, and I bet you pay at least one takeaway a week, and it's probably more than that now.
Yeah,
Takeaways are so expensive.
Yeah. If you want the best value though, if you want to go for a will and a lasting power of attorney, that is available for you on an offer with Simpler Law. £505 the usual price, down to £249, and with those flexible payments, just £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Now, we've got to remind you, the first 250 clients will also receive the free book worth £25, What My Family Should Know book. Inside that book, you've got spaces for your bank accounts, your pensions, and we need to get Ian to explain about how many bank accounts, how many pensions are just lost because people don't know about them. This is where you record everything, and the first 250 people to secure an appointment will get that book free of charge. It's worth £25.
Everybody should have this book because there's so many things that people should know when you pass, but haven't got a clue where to find it.
You record it all in one place. And getting in touch is really simple as well. So let's just remind you how easy it is to get in touch. You can go directly to the website, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. You can call on the phone. The team are in the call centre right through till 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600 is the phone number.
And
just a few simple questions.
They're usually very busy, but if you've got a couple of questions, you can ask them.
You don't need anything. You don't need any documentation.
It is just securing the deal. They'll get back to you after this morning. And the really popular way to get in touch, actually, and this would be me, perhaps you're thinking, I don't want to talk to anybody right now. Text Will to 66777. I love those competitions. You just text
not a
a word.
competition. Everyone's a winner.
No, but it is. It is like you're winning something here because you're going to make sure what you want to happen when you're not here actually happens by just texting Will. Tonight it's actually
that's for both
the
offers.
First step. Even if you want the lasting power of attorney, still text the word will, and it's your first step to know that you are going to do this. It gives you the most amazing peace of mind. If you forget any of this, of course you can go through our website as well, shopontv.co.uk. You can go onto that first page and just click onto the wills and lasting power of attorney, the LPAs. There's the deals, and then if you just scroll down, this is really easy. Even I know the answer to these questions. Your name, your phone number, your email. Really simple just to fill that in and submit that. And again, instantly, you've taken that first step to make sure what you want to happen is going to happen. And you could save so much upset. It's bad enough that you're going through that heartbreak, but if you haven't written things down by law properly, what you think is going to happen just isn't. And that could be heartbreak.
It's all your last wishes. It's your last gift to your family, so that everything, as bad as it is, it just doesn't get any worse because everything's in place. Now, we've talked about one of the power of attorneys because there are 2 in England, aren't there? The fact that there's 2 separate ones. If you're in Scotland, again, there is a different document, but you guys can specialise in that as well.
Yeah, in Scotland they can combine the 2, so there's what's called a continuing welfare power of attorney, so it covers both elements, if you like. In England and Wales, there's a specific one for property and financial affairs, and there's a specific one for health and welfare. I don't know why I'm doing this with my hands. But,
it's good. It's good to talk with your hands.
It's visual.
We do it all the time.
There you go. Yeah. I've got no LPAs in my hands.
But we knew what you...
Yeah, but there are 2 specific documents for very specific things, so yeah.
So the health one, I think, just like you were saying, it's just as important or even more important. Because I remember seeing in a newspaper actually a story about a lady that wanted to take her mum out of her home for Christmas.
You mentioned it earlier.
And she got arrested because she wasn't
have an LPA in place.
Sometimes stories and authorities get things a little bit out of proportion because it's like technically she's been kidnapped, so then the police have to be called, and now they're responding to a kidnapping, and it's like, is that real? But of course, again, we're back in a land of law. Have you got the authority? Rational and normal, if there is such a thing, thinking goes out the window when it comes to things like this. Because like you said about your mum, well, I'm her daughter and everyone knows that I want to care for my mum. No one for 1 second that knows you and your mum would think that you would do your mum any harm. But the law doesn't know that because we don't know you. So by your mum making a lasting power of attorney, she's made it absolutely clear that she trusts you to step in and make those decisions. That's beyond question now. So if life was cruel and threw your mum a curveball, you register your lasting power of attorney, you step in and you take care of your mum. No more drama than that. Obviously, it's not going to make whatever's happened to your mum better, but this having a lasting power of attorney doesn't make it worse. And the health and welfare is about how that person's cared for, about, you know, daily activities that you can't make decisions for yourself, right down to where you live, to what you eat, even down to like what people you might see. If you find yourself in a care home, for example, you might have fallen out with your sister and said, I never want to see her again for the rest of my life. That's your prerogative. But if she learns that you're in a care home, she might try and come and see you. It's all these weird and wonderful things that people don't think about. That, and I'll be honest, in 2007, when this document first came in, truthfully, I was a little bit slow to understand the power of the health and welfare. I understood it at a, but then these stories start coming out and you're going, well, if you'd have had a health and welfare, you'd have been, and you're like, right, okay.
But again, you don't realise. I just presumed if my mum was ill that I would choose who looked after her, how she was looked after. You know, she's my mum. She's been my mum all my life. But again, it's not the case, is it?
It's not, no. And this is why these documents are so powerful. Again, it's about you having control and you making that choice. Because again, it might not necessarily even be family. It might be a friend if you're not as close to your family. It's you having that choice of who you trust rather than, you know, relying on the right person to step forward.
So important.
So important.
It really is, and just giving you a few of the ideas of what it allows you to control, and that could be completely out of your hands. And then you'd have to go through the government as such, and that could take a year, you were saying. So for a year, what you want to happen isn't happening, and you're watching your... And actually, oh gosh, I've just had a horrible thought.
In worst case scenario.
Some people could actually die before the...
And we see that sometimes, if you've got the power of attorney, you could just step straight in. But sometimes, and you know, we're saying a year, that's an average. It could even be longer.
Families are dealing with the court when they should be dealing with the loved one.
Exactly.
That's make my hands, because that would be. Can you imagine?
You could have gone through that time and money.
Were able to make it right for
and not
them.
been able to do it in the end anyway.
Oh, it's
so these are really, really powerful documents, and again, it's just picking up that phone.
I think to be clear, we never want to scaremonger, but as one of the largest companies that are doing this, unfortunately, we do see it, and we don't see it occasionally. We see it every day.
Just because chatting, you just think, oh.
Well, every week when we work with you, there's a new story.
It's inevitable. Unfortunately, because you know there's millions of people out there who are going about their lives, quite rightly so. Haven't given this really much thought, and like you said, might not even know exactly what a lasting power of attorney is. But the second you understand its value and its power, it's really important to consider getting one. You know, I think most people understand, as we've said, what a will is, and I think, you know, we do these shows because we want everyone to have a will. Everyone should have a will, you know, and everyone should have a lasting power of attorney. The lasting power of attorney, as I said, it just means that a really bad situation is not made worse, because you don't want to be dealing with the courts and banging heads with institutions. You just want to be able to look after the person that, you know, that's going through whatever awful thing they're going through. So, you know, I'll repeat again, we will spend money on things that we think we want to spend money on, and we'll protect things that we think need protecting, and we sometimes forget about ourselves and our loved ones. We will insure our dog. Pet insurance, we will insure the boiler, we will insure our phone, we will insure our home, we'll insure our car. And again, a lasting power of attorney isn't an insurance policy, but it's similar. It's a what-if document. And sometimes, you know, we won't look at protecting ourselves. So again, if you sat there with your phone at the side of you tonight, text the word will to 66777, we'll call you back later, or the team are there if you want to ask them any questions now on 0333 600 2600.
And we did this for Mum, and I think you might be thinking at home as well the same. You know, I should do it for my parents, thinking, you know, they're older. But actually, that's also the wrong way of thinking, because we so need to do it for each other.
It's actually changed our way of thinking altogether, isn't it?
Because you presume you're young, and we're not even young anymore. But in our heads, we still think we're young. But
it is important to say that, though, because you do assume it's for elderly
we did it for Mum
and dementia.
I didn't think for a minute about us until we actually started doing the shows with you, because obviously I dealt with you before we'd met show-wise, And it's only now that we thought, well, that's stupid. You shouldn't be old when you do this. You should be young.
At the end of the day, you could be 18, 20, you've got a bank account. You know, you may even have pensions with work. You know, if anything happens to you, free car accident, things like that, it's awful to say, but you can't just assume it's when you're elderly and it's ill health. It could be anything. And in that scenario, you know, you're protecting your parents as well, or whoever that other family member is, to step forward and make that decision for you. So these are relevant to anybody.
Yeah. I'd be a hypocrite if I hadn't got lasting powers of attorney in place, but like I said, Jeannie and I have had lasting powers of attorney in place now for 17 years.
Yeah.
You know, again, in the hope that they don't need to be used, but they're there, so we don't have to think about it, you know.
Yeah.
We know that we're there for each other, and we know we've got 2 other attorneys as well that we trust, that would just step in if anything happened. So, you know, it's just, we don't think about it now. We know that we know. Yeah,
you do it and
we've
you
done
forget.
it. We get it, and then you just get on with your life.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just that, it's that peace of mind. It's
say
that,
it over and over again, peace of mind, don't we?
Yeah.
It really is. If you want to take advantage and you listen to the stories that we tell, they're not stories, they're real life scenarios, and that's the point. The offers that Simpler Law bring you are the first thing that I thought about, I thought it was going to be too expensive.
Well, absolutely. We've thought about a will first of all, and we've put it off for years. We've only done it really recently, stupidly thinking everything would just go to each other, and it's not the case at all. But I did think it'd be really complicated, really expensive. At full price at £180, God, I would pay that time and time again to know that what we want to happen is actually going to happen. But actually, your deal tonight is £89, and the best thing is you can split that over 4 payments, so £22.25 a month. And I bet you that is less than you spend on coffee every month. And that is you knowing what you want to happen to whatever you own. And please don't think you don't have anything worth leaving, because you will have. You'll have that special ring. It might be your pet. And we all have something that you want to make sure goes to who you want it to go to, or not the reverse, going to someone you really don't want to have it. And just for $22.50 or $22.25 a month for 4 months, and that is done. It's as simple as that. And all you're doing today is securing the deal. You don't need to know anything at all. Lasting power of attorney, which has been through, should be £325. It is down to £179, which is incredible. And again, you can split that cost over those 4 payments of £44.75, which again is probably less than you spend on a takeaway a month. But then you can do the 2 together.
Yeah, the combination we've been talking about is always popular. If you want a will and an LPA, a £505 usual price, £249 is the offer price from Simpler Law with us here at ShopOnTV, and £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Remember, the first 250 clients will also receive that free book, What My Family Should Know. It's basically a book where you record everything from your bank accounts, pensions, insurance policies, to things like passwords for your computer, for your tablet, for your phone.
Because everything's on your tablet or your phone. It could be the emails that you need, but it might be the photos that you want to keep, and they're all gone because you don't know.
And that's all stored in one place in that book. It's absolutely brilliant. But only the first 250 people.
You might have had a job when you were 18 that you were only in for 5 years, but contributed to a pension that even you might have forgotten about, and it's things like that that you can record.
There's loads of money left, isn't there, in pensions and
as
things.
part of our research in putting this together, and it's been really well received this for that reason. There's £5 billion of unclaimed pension funds out there.
5 billion.
5 billion, yeah. So you imagine, you know, how many millions of people are in the UK who forgot that they paid into this pension, or that they had that
And it's
employees.
just sat there doing nothing.
£5 billion that should be with loved ones or family, and
We might really need it.
There's life insurance policies that haven't been claimed onto the tune of £2 billion as well, so they've just not been found for some reason. It's believed there's £850 million just sat in bank accounts that, again, should be, you know, should have been passed on to loved ones and haven't been found. So this comes full circle to why you should make a will, and why it's important that you choose the right people to administer it. As far as, you know, choosing your own executors, it all comes back to control and actually making sure that the right people are actually doing the job for you as well. You know, you can have a combination. You can have friends and family do it. You can have professionals do it. You can have a combination of friends and family with a professional. But you're making that choice of who's actually going to follow your last wishes and who's going to bring your estate together. And this book really helps with that. So you're right. We do these shows because we want to put exclusive offers on, and we want to we want to encourage as many people as we can to actually, you know, not have a government will and take control. But we give away these 250 books as well because they are...
That book is fantastic, and I know loads of people try to buy it, don't they?
Yeah, it's really popular.
Yeah, it's incredibly popular because you sit down, it makes you think.
Yeah.
You know what? And we sometimes laugh when people say, well, I don't really think I need a will because I haven't got anything. And you start talking, well, they don't think they've got anything because they've got a house, but if they're not selling the house, it's their home, so they don't see a monetary value to it.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, well, I've got my diamond wedding ring, and then I've got my engagement ring, and then I've got my eternity ring, and then they'll say, well, and I've got £5,000 in an ISA, then there's my £20,000 car, well,
That's quite a few things.
Yeah.
It's quite a lot here, yeah.
It's amazing how many people say that
you don't even think about your car.
No.
Yeah.
But-
That is...
But you know, these are things that you've worked for.
Yeah.
You know, for most people, they've not been given this stuff. They've worked hard for it. So it's important then that what you've worked hard for goes where you want it to go. But that's why you need to make a will, because the only way that you can guarantee what you want to happen is if it's your will, nobody else's. So you make a will.
There's so many misconceptions,
Yeah.
isn't there?
Yeah.
With writing wills, because
We just assume things,
Yeah.
don't we?
Yeah.
And a lot of the time, those assumptions are completely wrong.
No, absolutely. And again, it's down to that lack of knowledge or that lack of actually having that conversation. And as we've said, you don't get up in the morning and think, why should I write a will, or what happens if I don't write a will?
Yes.
And if you're not having that conversation or maybe experiencing it yourself or through a family member or a friend, you don't know that. So you just assume we're married or we've been partners for...
Well, that's it. We've been partners 33 years. So,
Yeah.
and our family obviously knows that if anything happened to either of us, Sean's money would be mine, my money would be Sean's. But that would not
Because
be the
we're not
case.
married.
We were clueless.
Exactly,
we didn't think
yeah.
for a minute that would not be the case.
Zero provision for unmarried partners. Zero.
Well, it's what you...
So we could have lost the house,
We thought
really,
common law...
Depends
law
how
was
you
a
own.
thing.
To be fair, it depends
Yeah.
how you own the property, because sometimes property can pass outside of your will. But again, you know, there's lots of situations where there's unmarried couples where only one of them owns a property. And sometimes,
Yes.
forgive the finger puppets, but when you're talking to a couple, there's a first death and a second death. So it's, what do you want to happen when one of you's passed away, and then what do you want to happen when both of you have passed away? And these are all questions that we can ask you that you might not have thought about. You know, Charlotte's absolutely right when she said the knowledge isn't out there. And that's not a criticism of the general public.
No.
You can only know what you know. You know, and unfortunately, there isn't a lot of information out there, and there certainly isn't enough information out there to say that, are you aware that if you don't make your own will, the government are going to step in and give you a pre-made one. There's a default position which doesn't care about you or your family. It's just the default position legally that your estate will be distributed according to this set of rules that doesn't care about you, frankly.
And you're already devastated because
Yeah.
something really horrendous has happened, and then something, it's just going to make it a billion times worse. I bet it can cause so many family upset.
The single biggest reason for breakdown in family relationships is a bereavement, because emotions are heightened, money's in the mix without casting aspersions, but sometimes it can be something as silly as Mom said I could have the wedding ring, or it could be as silly as Mom said she wanted to be cremated, no, she wanted to be buried. And because that conversation hasn't happened or hasn't been documented, and both people be entrenched in a position. I saw an illustration recently which was about perception. It was the figure 6, and there was a person stood at the bottom of the figure 6, and then a person stood at the other end, and one was saying 6 and one was saying 9. So they were both right, but they were in a position that they couldn't reconcile. And sometimes families get into that
scenario.
because again, it comes back to the selflessness of making a will. Is you remove that ambiguity. You actually say whether it's a 6 or 9 in that really poor example I gave, but you'll say, no, I wanted to be cremated, or you know, I did want to use my organs for donation, for example.
Your wish is there.
And I actually wanted this daughter to have my wedding ring and this daughter to have my engagement ring, for example. All of these things are really selfless, but they're also really personal. And I like what you said. I picked up on it because I think it's brilliant. You said this is your last gift to your family.
Yeah.
Because it is. It's your last act on planet Earth is the reading of your will. So make sure it's your will and not a government will.
Yeah.
There's only 4 of us here this morning, but I dare say that all of our situations are different. And yet we'd all get the same will from the government if we didn't make our own. It's ridiculous.
And that is if we haven't got a will,
Yeah.
we go into, what's it called?
It's called rules of intestacy,
Rules of
yeah. So
Can you explain that, or how does that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a really simple set of questions which from 1925 has changed very, very slightly, if anything, since
Few
then.
figures have changed,
yeah,
yeah.
very slightly. So the first question that comes up is as simple as, are you married or in a civil partnership? So as we said, it doesn't account for cohabiting or long-term partners. It's as simple as, are you married, yes or no?
And then it moves to the next question.
And it moves. So yes, if you're married, then people will assume, right, that's all going to go to my spouse. But that's not the case. It'll only be the first 322,000 that actually goes to them. So if your estate exceeds that, the rest of that is going to go to children. And this is where it can potentially be complicated if you've got merged families, so children from different relationships, which we can go into as well. If you're not married, then it goes down the next question, which is, do you have any children? So if you have, going directly to biological children. If you don't have children, do you have parents? And as simple as that. And if you haven't got any of these people, then essentially it's going to go to the Crown.
There's nothing personal about it at
But
all.
no,
It's just a flow chart that distributes your estates.
It's not taking those mixed families into account, which we see more often now, where you're on to the second relationship or third relationship and you've got children from those previous relationships that you're all one family in your eyes. You know, your sisters, your parents, all as one. It doesn't account for that now. So if you're that family, potentially that's where we see these disputes and actually where it can break families up in a really difficult time already.
I think coming back to the first question on the rules of intestacy, because it's all about your bloodline, but it starts with your marital status, is that question, you're quite right, says, are you married or in a civil partnership? It's a yes or no question, and there's no other grey areas or extension of that question. It's, are you married in a civil partnership? And we hear all too often that people are like, oh, well, we're common law husband and wife.
That's the one.
Because that's a phrase. There's lots of experts in pubs around the UK which terrify me because they're not insured, they're not qualified, and yet they're the ones that will undermine the professional by saying, Dave, and Dave's the pub quiz champion, you know, and you should see him at Trivial Pursuits as well. Now, I wouldn't profess to give advice to anybody about anything outside of this. I just wouldn't. But unfortunately, Dave in the pub, for example, and apologies to any Daves out there. It's not all Daves in the pub. We know which Dave we're talking about. But in all seriousness, that person's can be a little bit dangerous because they'll say to you, oh, you don't need a will because you've lived together. Like your situation that you assumed, oh, well, we've been together for 33 years. We must be seen as common law husband and wife. But actually, no, in the eyes of the law, when you pass away, the question is asked of you, are you married in a civil partnership? Well, the answer would be no. And there is absolutely no provision in the government will for unmarried partners.
No.
So you might have built you might have built a life together, but
and,
what's in your name is then not going to pass to your partner. It's going to follow the rules of intestacy, which is going to ask about your children. It's going to ask about, and if you haven't got children, it's going to ask about your parents. If you haven't got parents, it's going to ask about brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles. It's going to follow your bloodline and disregard your partner entirely.
So it could go to a family member that you haven't seen forever, for donkey's years, that you fell out with years ago.
That's why these programs exist that are doing that right now. You know, we found a long lost relative in Australia who didn't even know that they had a great uncle 3 times removed. But and the really awful thing about it is most people around the person that passed away will have known what they wanted to happen, but because they didn't take 15 minutes, half an hour out of the life to do it, it didn't happen. So again, if you're sat there watching this thinking, I've been thinking about making a will, the nicest thing you can do for yourself and your family is to stop thinking about it and just do it, because you won't regret that you did.
No.
I know for us, we presumed what we thought was going to happen would happen, and Harmony were completely wrong. But for me as well, it's something that frightens me. I thought it'd be really complicated, and it's so easy. You don't really need to know anything. It's all just a nice chat, like we're sat here chatting.
This is exactly what it's
this
like,
morning.
yeah.
It's
really relaxed.
To be fair, it's
no
much
pressure.
nicer than this.
But yeah, they're much nicer than you, Ian.
I'm awful. You need to speak to someone like Charlotte.
I was going to say, you lucky you don't get in on the other side of the phone.
No one wants to speak to me. Understandably so.
No, you're an amazing team, and you do make it just so easy. So don't think it's too complicated. Don't presume what you think is going to happen, because it truly isn't. When you see that chart, is that what you want to happen to what you possess? And it could be your pet, it could be belongings. Don't ever think you haven't got anything that's worth passing on. I know you'll have something, whether it is the ring you got from your mum or from your grandma. There's somebody that you want to have it, and there's perhaps somebody you really don't want to have it. And actually, when you go through that chart, that person you don't want to get everything might actually get everything. It is your final gift to your loved ones, and it doesn't have to be family. It could be friends that you want to pass this on to. It could actually be what happens to your children. Honestly, when you sit down and chat, it blows you away because I hadn't even thought.
That's the
that.
point. And it might be the fact that you haven't got round to writing a will, but you just haven't got round to it. And tonight is the opportunity for
we
you
put
to
things
just
off,
get started.
don't we?
Well, it's not.
I put
think-
off pressure washing the garden time and time and time, and it's like thick now because you've put it off.
It's your
Whereas
job.
when I actually do it, I think, oh, it looks amazing. Why didn't I do that ages ago? And you'll feel exactly the same. It'll be like, oh, what? That relief, I've done it. It was so easy. Why didn't
But
I do
think
this
for
ages
a lot of
ago?
people with a will in particular, it's not so much you putting it off, you just don't get round to it.
Yeah.
Like we don't get
But
round to so many
life gets in
important
the way,
things.
doesn't it? We're so busy. You know, we're actually going into May now, and we're looking at our May thinking, oh my goodness, it's going to be June.
We've got way too much
tomorrow
going on in
because there's
May.
too much going on. And again, we'll do it in June, and then you'll do it in July. And
You
then
can
it'll be
always put an
Christmas.
event in the way,
Yeah.
can't you?
Yes.
Yeah, we
Well,
were
it's
saying
we're all
We'll
guilty
get,
of
we'll get
it.
through summer and,
Yeah.
and we'll get through
Can't
a
do it now,
birthday and
it's
then
Yeah.
Christmas. We
and
said.
if Christmas
Yeah.
Christmas obviously prevents any decisions
Stops
from being made.
everything.
Look, life does get in the way, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again that of course there are sexier things to spend your money on. There are things that you probably want to spend your money on, and you probably don't wake up in the morning and go, I want to spend money on a will today. But if you understand exactly what this will can do for you, and if you really understand, and that's why we do these shows, what you've got if you don't make a will. And it's not us giving you this. This is every adult in the UK has the government will if you don't make your own. And I don't think people understand that.
No.
We would never have known that.
And all I would do is I would ask you to think about this. If you're sat now watching this thinking, well, I'm sure everything will be okay, who told you that?
Yeah.
Did someone put some information through your letterbox, or did you read it somewhere? Because unfortunately, I can promise you one thing. If you don't make your own will, you have absolutely no say in what happens to your estate when you're not here. None. The government will dictate that for you. And actually, truthfully, if you think about that, no one wants that.
No.
The last act on planet Earth needs to be yours, not a set of rules that doesn't care about you or your family from 1925. So, in all seriousness, if you sat watching this now and you're coping with me waffling on, do something amazing for yourself and for your family. Text the word will to 66777 and one of the team will call you back later this morning. It must be going on for 2 o'clock now, no idea what time it is. So you might not want to speak to us now, but if you do, the team are there now ready to take your call. And if you've got any questions, they'll be happy to answer a few questions. Today is just about, no pun intended, having the will to make a will.
And
Yeah.
you don't need anything, do you? You don't need any documents.
You don't need to go and get
know
boxes
anything.
out of find papers and.
No,
No,
we'll
just
hold your
making
hand through the whole
choice.
process. How this works, if you get in touch with us tonight, we'll say, well done, thank you for taking that first step. You'll qualify for hopefully one of the free books as well. We'll send you some information for you to think about your consultation. We'll then contact you and make an appointment that's convenient to you. So we'll go through at your pace that consultation as well. So it will be with someone like Charlotte. And as you're going through that consultation, we'll give you the appropriate advice as we go along. You're obviously answering our questions because it's your will, it's not ours. In the nicest possible way, it's not our estate that we're protecting, it's your estate, it's your money, it's your family. So you give us all the information. Once you're happy with the instructions you've given us and you're happy with the advice that we've given you, we then produce your documents. We then make sure those documents are received by you, we make sure that you understand them, and more importantly, we make sure that they get dated, signed and witnessed correctly. Because even in this digital age, unless a will is attested correctly, unless it's got a wet signature on with 2 independent witnesses, it's not a valid document. So we help hold your hand through all of that. We have a free validation service where we'll say, yes, this will is perfect, it's good to go. And then you're done until the point of need. There's other things that we can talk about after that, like where you want to keep your document, for example. But basically, we'll hold your hand through that whole process and go at your speed. And everything that we do and tell you is insured. So we're backed by a £5 million insurance policy because as the professionals, we're responsible for what we're doing. If you don't do any of that, you just get a government will that doesn't care about anything that you told us. It doesn't care about who you want to administer your estate. It doesn't care about what age your children inherit. It doesn't care about guardianship. You know, for parents of young children, they might have a very clear idea of where they would want their children to be brought up, but if you don't document that, that's not guaranteed to happen.
It's out your hands.
It's not unusual, and Charlotte sees this every day, for families to be fractured. So there are some parents that say, we've not spoken to our son for 10 years, we wouldn't want to inherit, or there's been this breakdown in this relationship. It doesn't care about any of that. The government will doesn't care about you, it doesn't care about your family, it doesn't care about your estate. But if you make your own will, it's all about you. It's your will. It's a bespoke document.
It's your wish.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, as I said, if you're coping with me boring you this morning, I'm only going on because I'm passionate about what we do. I've done this for a quarter of a century, and there's still people out there who are passing away without a will and creating a world of problem that for the equivalent of like 70p a day for 4 months can be fixed.
Well, I know we also thought it'd be really expensive, and it's so affordable. If you're thinking, oh God, I don't want that I do want, you know, who I want to have, who I love to get what I own, and
It's
it might
your last
be
wishes,
yeah.
isn't it? You can have it all written down, so exactly what you want to happen will happen when
Yeah,
you're gone.
and it's the only way if it's written down legally as well. And we'll go into, perhaps you've written a template, and we'll go into why that might not actually work for you either. You do need to very much go down the line of talking to someone like Simpler Law, and we'll explain why.
Experts.
Yeah, complete experts. This is what they deal in. They know exactly how to do it right. I know when we filled in a form wrong, we would have never have realised unless Simpler Law had said, well, actually, that's not quite correct. You need to alter that, otherwise it won't be legal. It's the only way to do it, and we did think it'd be really expensive. And are you looking at the price on your screen?
Not at all.
At £180, I would be quite happy to know that what we want to happen is going to happen, because it won't. We presume, 33 years together, that it would go to each other. Everybody would know that, but that's not what the laws will actually do, and it won't go that way at all. You've got an amazing price at £89, but actually, if you look at those 4 payments, I mean, it's the price
It's
of...
so affordable, isn't it?
It's probably what you spend. What do you spend on coffee a month? I bet it's more than £22 and 25 pence. And my director's just saying what he spends on coffee. My goodness, he could treat you all to a will. But he does really like coffee. You know, it's
Well,
just...
tell him we're here till 3 o'clock and
Absolutely.
I'll send him out.
yeah.
You've got such a great price to have that peace of mind that what you want to happen is truly going to happen. So do use the opportunity to secure that deal tonight.
If you want to go for the will, £180 is what it should be, down to £89 with the Shop on TV offer price coming directly from Simpler Law. And Simpler Law offering you 4 interest-free monthly instalments, so £22.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments if you want to go for the will. If you want the lasting power of attorney, and we're going to talk more about that again before the end of the show, we're live right through till 3 a.m. Should be £325, comes down to £179, and with those 4 interest-free payments, £44.75 on your first of 4 payments there for the lasting power of attorney. However, the will and the lasting power of attorney, which a lot of you go for in all of these shows,
really
is
good
the
idea.
best value, really, isn't it?
Well, it's better than half price. Should be £505. It's £249, so you're saving £256 there. Again, you can split that cost over 4 payments. £62.25 a month is all you spend. Now, if you are securing those deals, and securing those deals is just getting in touch today. You don't need to know anything. You will be actually, well, if you're lucky enough now, there's 250 fabulous books that really allow you to secure all your personal belongings, and we'll tell you about that book as well. But this is how you get in touch. On the website, really easy.
Yeah, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. You can call the team in the call centre. The client care team are all there right through till 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600 is the number. They'll only ask you a couple of simple questions. It's just securing those offers that we've talked about, and then they'll arrange an appointment to go more in depth, more into detail. Or you can text. Now, if your phone's sat there right beside you and you don't want to speak to anyone tonight, you can just text the word WILL, WILL, to 66777, and someone from the team will get in touch with you after 11 o'clock this morning.
So easy that, isn't it? Most of you use that text. I love using this sort of text ways of doing things. You can go to bed with that peace of mind. I bet you might sleep a bit more soundly tonight, knowing that you've actually made a step to make a difference, and give that last gift to the loved ones. You know, when it happens, it is going to happen, and you will be so upset if what you wanted to happen doesn't happen, and it won't unless you have got a legal will in place. Now, if you get up tomorrow and think, oh, I was meant to do that last night, I can't remember all those details, just go onto our website, ShopOnTV.co.uk, and click onto wills and LPAs. You'll see all of our deals. Best thing to do is to do it tonight though, because you'll be hopefully one of those people that get the book. This is so simple because I know all the answers to these questions. Your name, your phone number, your email. It's a real basic form
Really
to submit. And then again, you've just taken that first step.
And that's the point. It's starting the ball rolling. It might be that thing that you've just put off, you haven't got round to. And it's so important to have a will, and we're going to talk more about why it's so important. And we're going to talk about the things that can go wrong, that you just presume, like we always say, I presumed that you'd get what I've got, vice versa.
Everybody know, our whole family, all of our families know that, but the law doesn't know that.
And the law takes over if you haven't got a will, doesn't it?
In the nicest possible way, the law doesn't care. The rules of intestacy are there as a default position because, you know, your estate has to be administered. So if you pass away without making a will, you will die what's called intestate. So your estate will be distributed according to a set of rules that was created in 1925, which frankly doesn't care about you or your family or your estate.
So if you haven't got a will, there is like this will that the government will then just use.
Yeah, we call it the government will because effectively that's what you get. So, you know, it's a little bit crass, but if you ask someone if they got a will and they say no, that answer is actually incorrect, because if they haven't made their own will, they may not know it, they actually get a government will, yeah.
And it's really straightforward. It's yes, no questions. There's no emotion involved here at all.
It's all about your marital status and your bloodline. So again, it doesn't really cater for the blended families that, you know, are quite prevalent in the UK now. You know, it's believed that half of families in the UK are, you know, blended, so they're quite dynamic. You know, there might be people together on second relationships, third relationships. They may have children together, they may have children from previous relationships. The rules of intestacy literally rip that family apart because they can't cope with that dynamic. The first question that's asked when you passed away is, was the deceased married or in a civil partnership? Nothing about cohabiting, were they in love? No such thing as common law husband and wife. You're either married or in a civil partnership, which is legal status, or you're not, so it's yes or no. And then there's a series of other questions. It's all about your family. So it doesn't care if you're unmarried partners, as thankfully you two came to realise, so you fixed it. There is no provision for unmarried partners at all. And that so that's devastating. You've built a life together for over 30 years.
To us, we're married, you know.
And you know, the professional in the pub is the guy that will turn around and say, oh, you're common law husband and wife, you don't need to worry about it. And you might go away going, oh, I didn't think we did. And then sadly, when one of you passes away, when it's too late, that's when you find out, what do you mean I'm not getting anything? And in some scenarios, you end up having to bring a claim against the person that you loved because they didn't leave anything for you, and it can get really messy and really expensive, and it can all be avoided. That's why we do these shows. We do these shows because for a simple phone call or a simple text, and not a great deal of your time, and certainly not a great deal of your money, all of these horror stories can be made to go away. Yeah. But unfortunately, we still hear them every single day. So we're just trying to reach as many people as we can and say, don't let the government dictate what happens. You choose, do something amazing for yourself and your family.
And it's important, Charlotte, because simpler law, why should the viewers at home choose simpler law?
So they can get to speak to you.
You get to speak to me, potentially, if you're lucky enough. No, this is all that we do, and we're really proud of it. And when I say you can speak to me, we have 5-star Trustpilot reviews. And with those reviews, it doesn't say, as you've said previously, that Simpler Law did a good job. It will say that Jack did a really good job, that Kim did a really good job. Yeah, it's really personal.
You become friends, really, don't you?
You do. It's a hand-holding service. We will take you through at your own pace, whether that is you come with all the answers, whether it's that you come with none. We'll have to have a conversation in the comfort of your own home, over the phone, have a cup of tea, and we'll just discuss what you want to happen. And if that takes you a bit longer, that's absolutely fine. You know, you don't have to have all of the answers straight away, but you know, we specialise in this field. We're proud of what we do, and it's just making sure that we produce a document that's right for you. We're covered by, well, you were covered by our professional indemnity insurance, which covers you up to 5 million as well. Yeah. So you've got that protection rather than, as we've said, going to write a template where you haven't got that protection, you haven't got that advice to make sure that the document is actually going to achieve what you want it to.
It's a professional service. You're experts in the field, aren't you? That's what I love about it.
But the lovely thing is you talk in our terms. You know, I find all of this quite frightening, and I know when we went to do our will and we did our lasting power of attorney with Simpler Law as well, before they came to us here on ShopOnTV, it really did frighten me because it's all complicated and it's all big long words.
Yeah,
and I was like, am I going to look daft? But you make it, you know, so easy, and it is just a conversation.
It is. A lot of people think it's quite daunting, and there are a lot of clients that I'll speak to when you come to the start of the consultation. They think, oh, I'm really nervous. And it's okay to be nervous. It's a really important thing that you're doing, but that's what we're there to help you through. And we do. We take you to a dark place for a very short period of time to say, you know, worst case scenario, where would you like things to go? But every client I speak to at the end will always say, oh gosh, I'm glad I've done that. You know, you don't ever regret doing that. And sometimes it's a weight lifted that you probably didn't even realise was there in the first place, because a lot of the time you'll come and say, oh, it's going to be quite easy, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And sometimes the advice we give you might vary that. Yeah, so actually you think, oh gosh, I've done a really good thing today. And that's what we're asking you to do today. Just take that first step. Yeah. You don't need to know the answers. Just make a choice today to say, I'm going to do what's best for me and what's best for my family or friends, whoever that person is, and make an informed decision today.
And when we talk about Trustpilot and reviews, your reviews are fantastic, aren't they? Across
Mine
the board. Yours definitely. And it's not just about the people, it's about the service. It's, I mean, we'll share some of them with you, actually. As we go through the show, we'll share some of them with you right now. Take a little look at this one. Jean said, was rather nervous. This is what you were talking about.
Yeah.
I was rather nervous to begin with, but from the very beginning, every person I spoke to put my worries at rest. It was a very simple procedure, and I'll be recommending them to anyone I know who hasn't got a will yet. That's great, isn't it?
I mean, I remember the ladies we dealt with, Marianne and Joanne, you know, they became friends really, and the thing I loved was no question seemed too daft.
No.
And I normally won't ask the question because I'm too
No,
worried.
because you're worried. Dave said this, completed my will today with Gemma. Gemma was very helpful and explained in detail through the steps, making it easier and less stressful to complete. The will was more complicated due to the requests I had, but Gemma had no issue in completing these. And you guys talk about some people think it's going to be really straightforward, and then it's not. It's more complicated. And then people who think it's more complicated, it's usually quite straightforward.
Yeah, we appreciate, you know, and Charlotte and her colleagues appreciate that we do this every single day, but of course you might only do this once.
Yeah.
You know, you might only do it once and never have to update
So
your will
you've probably
again.
seen nearly all the different scenarios.
Yeah, we've got well over 200,000 clients, and there's more in our group as well. So we've pretty much have seen every single scenario, you know, and that's what we're trained and qualified to do as well. So, you know, it's our job. So we appreciate that if it's the first time you're doing it, that's why we put you at ease. You know, and yes, there is some legal terminology in what we do, but we explain it to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We make sure you understand it as well.
And just to pick up when you said, you know, I didn't want to ask a question because it was going to be daft. If you've got a question, it means it's valid. It means that you want something explaining or you need something clarifying. So there is no such thing as a stupid question.
And it was lovely because I felt I could ask those questions even afterwards, because like you say, you go at our pace. I could email and just say, oh, I just forgot to say that, or is this right, or is that right? Have I done that right?
Yeah.
And it was great. I just felt so comfortable.
Yeah,
with you.
that's a great one.
And a lot of clients actually do say they enjoyed having the consultation as
yeah,
well.
we
You know,
did.
yeah.
Me and Mum were petrified because we did the lasting power of attorney, but we were petrified before the call, and then they were like, oh gosh, that was.
There's a common theme where people think it's going to be really complicated, or that we're not going to be able to make it clear to them, and I think that's put to rest quite quickly. Another thing that I get challenged with quite a lot, which I shouldn't find it amusing, but they say, oh, being a will writer then working in what you do, is it morbid?
Yeah,
and I'm like, no, we're speaking to people whilst we're alive. It's quite cathartic, you know. They're just putting plans in place now. Every now and then I've heard someone say, oh, I'm not going to make a will because I don't want to tempt fate.
No,
and so you're like, well, okay, that's your prerogative, but we've yet to meet someone that's immortal, so
it is going to happen.
So, but people will think, you know, the main reasons people put off doing it is they think it's going to be really expensive. Well, we've shown them through. Okay, we do exclusives through ShopOnTV, which is great, but for the equivalent of just over 70 pence a day for 4 months, you can have a will, a legally valid will. So it's not expensive. They think it's going to be complicated. Well, Charlotte and her colleagues, we make sure it's not complicated, because we'll only produce a document for you when you're 100% happy with what we've discussed together. Yeah. Yeah. If you're not happy, you ask us for a refund and we'll give you a refund. But that very rarely happens, because we're usually in a position where we can help you and we can make sure that you understand it all.
You work together with the clients, don't you?
Absolutely, yeah. You're our client. You know, we're nothing without you. But what you get at the end of it is a document that's right for you. It's a bespoke, unique document that matches your situation. And better than that, gets rid of the government will.
Yeah.
And the other reason, so they think it's complicated, it's not. They think it's expensive, promise you it's not. And the other is they think that it might be a little bit morbid or sad or difficult. And again, it's not. No. You're quite right. People end a consultation by saying, thank you, I'm glad I've got that out of the way.
Yeah.
You know,
that weight lifted off your shoulders.
We take you to a dark place. I like what you said there. We take you to a dark place for 30 seconds because we have to. If the worst happened yesterday, what would you like to see happen? And if they're not quite sure, that's where the conversation comes. And then we get to, right, this is what you want to happen. And guess what? We never, ever draft a will that matches the rules of intestacy.
No.
Never.
And it's your final gift to your loved ones.
Yeah.
You know, it's your final.
So selfless. It's so selfless because, you know, sometimes I've heard people say quite flippantly, well, I don't care because I won't be here. Well, you do.
Yeah, you do.
You do, because you love your kids, you love your wife.
If you were looking down and you hadn't written a will and you're watching your family fight, because I'm sure it must cause so much. If there was a family that two people had married, they'd got children from other families, what would happen? Because that family is now one big family, so surely the law would see them as one big family.
Unfortunately not, and again, that's where the assumption comes in, or the hope that we say people like to have. So let's say, for example, we've got man and wife and they've got children from previous relationships. If husband dies and it all goes to wife, for example, in the first instance, and then wife dies without a will, you'd assume that that's going to be split between children. That's probably what they wanted to happen if they've brought these children up together from a young age, or, you know, they see themselves as a family. But by law, unfortunately, if you've not got a will in place, that only accounts for that wife's biological children. So that means that what they would have planned together, if they'd written a will, would probably split equally between all the children, is only going to a wife's biological children. So actually, you're disinheriting the husband's children. It's called sideways disinheritance because they're actually missing out on any inheritance they would have had. Oh gosh. Purely because someone didn't take the time just to write the will. Because everyone would have known that. And this is where you see the family breakdowns, because they're probably really close siblings. But if some of them have been disinherited, exactly, it can be really heartbreaking.
Could be just two daughters.
There's a lot of disbelief around that as well, and I think sometimes when we're telling people this, you know, so I'll be brutally honest, you know, in the early hours of the morning, sometimes people level the accusation, you're only saying that because you want me to buy a will, and I'll go, yes, I am, but I'm also saying it because that's true. It is, you know, we didn't create the government will. The government will exist for everyone who didn't make a will, and it's not unusual to see a family now that might be on a second relationship with children from previous relationships. You know, that is not an unusual scenario. And unfortunately, I don't like using the phrase, but it's a lottery as to the children that are going to inherit is from the surviving parent. The first parent that passes away, their children are disinherited immediately because their estate moves to their spouse, and then when that spouse dies, it only follows their bloodline. And so the other children, step siblings, are going, well, where's my money? And that's when you see problems again. And unfortunately, you know, people who are like, oh, I'm sure my children will sort it out between themselves. Again, without casting aspersions, when you're not here, your influence isn't here. And when money's thrown in the mix at a time of heightened emotion, I don't know why you'd want to take that chance that I'm sure everyone will sort it out. When, for the sake of one phone call, you can guarantee that what you want to happen happens. So that's why we do these shows. And yeah, when I'm accused of you just want to sell me a will, I don't want to sell you anything. I want you to take control of what happens when you're no longer here by making your own will.
And everybody should have a will, because I think sometimes we think too late on, or we think, well, I haven't got anything, or if I was a single person, who am I going to leave it to anyhow, because I'm not married, I haven't got children, so there's no one, but there is somebody to leave it to, isn't there?
Well, there might be, you know, and sometimes it's close friends. It's not always family members that inherit. Sometimes it's charity. Sometimes there's specific gifts that people want to leave. But the reality of it is, you have, for want of a better description, we have an account. You know, we exist now, so someone has to close that account down. So someone has to step in. So I come back to making a will is incredibly selfless, because you might say, well, actually, I would want my friend, or I'd want this person, or I'd want. You choose who you want to basically close your account and deal with your estate. If you don't do that, then it can become really expensive. Money can be lost, and what you would have deep down wanted to happen is basically going to be dictated to by a set of rules that was created in 1925. It all comes back to control for me. For not a lot of money and not a lot of time, you can take control of what happens and dismiss the government will out of hand.
And this just gives you some idea of a few of the things you can do with your will, doesn't it?
Yeah, will can achieve a lot more than just where you want your estate to go, which is, I think, what, again, a lot of people assume a will is for, but actually you can do so much more. As Ian's just said, choosing your executor, so who's actually going to distribute your estate, because that could be family, again, it could be friends, whoever you would choose could be professional. And even things like deciding funeral requests, leaving specific gifts like heirlooms, if there's a family heirloom that comes through, who you want that to go to, pets. You know, a lot of people's pets are more important than their children. So, you know, who do you want to take care of your pet? So, like we said, these are really, really bespoke. So it's you coming to us and making the choice that's right for you, and us producing a document that is going to do what you want it to. So it's just taking the time just to pick up the phone, make the choice today to say, I'm going to do something really productive today, and I'm going to make something that's going to protect myself and my family and friends.
And it's so simple, it's so affordable, it's so easy today, and all you're doing today is actually securing the deals. And take a look at the deals, because honestly it is so affordable. If you are looking at the will, now I really thought will would be really expensive to do, £180 actually at full price. I'd happily have spent that, but actually your deal, if you're securing it today, is £89, and you can split that over 4 payments, so over 4 months. £22.25 is all you spend each month for those 4 months, and I bet you any money you spend more than that on the cups of coffee that you buy, or you know, definitely a takeaway. You really have, it's so little cost to know what you want to happen actually happens, and what you don't want to happen doesn't happen, because honestly that law really can make sure that it all goes horribly wrong if you haven't got a will in place. Then we've got the lasting power of attorney. Yeah,
we are going to talk more about that again in a couple of moments. If you don't understand what lasting power of attorney is, we'll get the team to explain everything. So £325 a usual price, down to £179 on the offer price from Simpler Law, and with those 4 interest-free payments, £44.75 on your first of 4 payments. A lot of you, as always, are going for the combination of a will and the lasting power of attorney. That's the biggest saving. £505 is what it should be. It's £249 on the offer price. And with those 4 interest-free payments, £62.25 on your first of 4 payments. Very important, the first 250 clients also receive that What My Family Should Know book, worth £25. That book is brilliant. It's that one-stop shop where you can store everything. Your bank accounts, your pensions. It can be things like passwords for your computer,
every
your
human
social
should have
media.
One, yeah. Because where is all that information? And when someone passes, you've got to try and find all that information. It could be in boxes, it could be in shoe boxes, it could be in the loft, it could be completely lost. But actually things you won't even think about are in this book, like the passwords to your tablet and your phone. Where are all those fabulous photographs, you know, that last holiday you have with that loved one? They took all the photographs. It's all on their phone. You'd lose all of that because you don't know the password. Just recently, someone we know, the dad died, the granddad died, and everything they needed was on his tablet, and nobody knew his password. Luckily, his grandson had played on that tablet and he remembered the password. But you won't know that. Even things like utility bills, so you can take control of the utility bills in the house. Computers and tablets we talked about. It's everything. Yeah, everything can be in that one place. And the first 250 people will get that book just by signing up for the offers. Lots of people, when it's gone, want to buy it, but if you're securing the deals, you are actually getting that book as well. And to actually secure the deals, really easy. You can either get in touch with us on the website, and of course that's really easy, simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. They'll get back to you later on today, so no one's going to be ringing you and speaking to you right now, so you can go to bed and not worry, and someone will get back. All you need to do is actually secure the deal. No questions, you don't need to find any information. It's as easy as just sending that email. Then you could jump onto the phones. Now the team are there until 3 a.m. this morning. They might be a bit busy, always busy when we have a show on, but they will answer. If you've got a couple of questions, you can ask a couple of questions, but again, all they'll want to know is details to get back in touch with you to find out a date that's right to speak to you properly about your will. And the phone number is 0333 600 2600. Or the most popular, and it definitely would be the way I would go. Perhaps you're thinking, well, I'm going to go to bed in a bit. I don't really want to talk to anyone right now. Just text Will. Just Will, W-I-L-L, to 66777, and they will call you back later on today. Keep thinking, is it today? Yes, it is today. Later on after 11 a.m. They'll know you've been up with us late tonight, so they'll get in touch with you later on in the day to again sort out a date that'll be right to speak to you about your will or your lasting power of attorney, whatever you're ringing about. If you do think, oh God, I've forgotten how to get in touch, go onto our website if that's what you use normally, ShopOnTV.co.uk. We're right there, right in the middle, and go to wills and lasting power of attorney, simpler law. There's all the deals, and then a really easy form to fill in your name, phone number, email, a couple of really easy questions, and then just submit. And again, they'll get back in touch with you later on today. It's giving you that peace of mind that what you want to happen happens, because it won't otherwise.
It's just starting that process, and tonight is that position that you're in to start that process. If you've put it off, if you've just never got round to it, whether it's a will or a lasting power of attorney, tonight is the night, or today is the day to get started. And these deals, these offers that Simpler Law bring us are absolutely fabulous.
And you've got that peace of mind, you're dealing with a company that know what they're doing, and that's the truth, Ian. Your whole background.
Yeah.
If anyone's thinking, but why should I deal with Simpler Law? Why should we deal with you?
Because we are specialists in this area. This is the only area of law that we deal with. So you wouldn't come to us for a boundary dispute or a personal injury claim or a divorce or anything like that. This is all our team are trained to do, is basically help people with estate planning. So, you know, if you've worked hard for something and you know what you want to happen, we make that happen. There's no scenario that we've come across that we can't help a client. You know, we've been doing this a number of years now. I've done it for longer than I care to remember. But as you could see from the list of services on the screen there, it's a full range of private client legal services, but it all starts with the will and typically a lasting power of attorney, which is why we do these shows. But whatever our clients need from us, we can provide it. So whether it's conveyancing, whether it's trusts, whether it's executive services, we even offer a bereavement service, but that isn't a sentimental thing. It's a practical thing. And you know, when we talk about making a will and we talk about it being bespoke and unique, people's reaction at a time of bereavement is also unique. Sometimes we'll have clients phone the office, you know, literally within hours of a bereavement, because that's their way of dealing with it. Other times we'll get a phone call to the office and they'll explain that they've lost a spouse, and obviously we'll say we're sorry to hear that, and they'll explain it was 3 years ago, but they can only just deal with it now. So we understand that everyone's different, and that's why it's so important to have a will that meets your circumstances and yours alone. And unfortunately, without making a will, you get left with a government will, and frankly the government will doesn't care about you or your family. So this is a really selfless thing that you're considering doing. So in the nicest possible way, stop considering and pick up the phone and let us help you. Yeah, get started.
And it's everybody, isn't it? Because I know we've spoken about sort of families that have got together and got children from different marriages and things, and how that can go really horribly wrong if you haven't got a will. But if you're just one single person, and I know I always ask you this, but I do think it's really important, because I think there's a lot of single people out there that would think, well, what's the point of me having a will? Because I'll wait till I get married. I'll wait till I have my children. Well, a bit like our producer tonight, she's going to wait till she sells a house. She's going to wait till she buys a house. You know, there's always a reason.
I'm glad you went there, because I wasn't going to bring that up.
She has texted in tonight. She has texted.
She very proudly told me before we went on air.
Yeah, she has texted in, but has been, I'll wait for this, I'll wait for that.
Which we all do.
But as a single person, tell us about that one guy who would be devastated what happened to what he had, but probably would have never thought that it's never too early, is it? He probably thought he'd got years ahead of him and he'd write that will when he was in a relationship, when he had children. There
was a successful young man in his 40s. He passed away unexpectedly and suddenly. He'd never married, he'd never had children. But the backstory was, and this was actually told by his surviving brother and his mother, so his mum's already dealing with the heartbreak of losing a son. But when this poor gentleman was born, his father left the family, so never to be seen or heard from again. So whatever his reasons for that are, we don't know, but he didn't raise his children. So his sons were brought up by the mom. Sadly, this gentleman passed away unexpectedly because he hadn't made a will, and we'll never know why, but because he hadn't made a will, he gets the government will. So he died intestate. So the rules of intestacy ask the question of the deceased, are you married in a civil partnership? As I just said, this gentleman had never married, so he was single, so the answer is no. The next question that's asked by the rules of intestacy is, do you have children? He never had children, so the answer is no. The next question is, do you have parents? The answer is yes. And obviously the story is being told by the mom and his surviving brother. So his mom, having lost her son, has for all intents and purposes now got to track down her ex-husband, who's had nothing to do with her or her children for 4 decades, and say you're now entitled to half of everything that he had. Yeah, and people will shake their head and people say, well, that can't be right. And it's not about right or wrong, and it's not about any moral position, it's about the law.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, because of the lack of knowledge, because this information isn't readily available, this is what people don't understand. And I get why they don't understand it, because they don't do a job like Charlotte and I every day. So they don't go on a search engine, what happens when I die. But if you don't make your will, if you don't take this opportunity tonight, say, I'm going to make my own will, you're settling for the government will. And the government will doesn't care about you or your family. It's literally a set of yes or no questions that's going to dictate where your estate goes. And that isn't always where you want it to. In fact, we've never drafted a will that matches the rules of intestacy for that reason.
I bet.
Because your will is bespoke and unique for you.
Yeah.
The government will is there for millions and millions of UK adults.
Nearly 100 years old, and
Yeah.
I don't think would work for anybody at all. If you do want to go for this deal, price on the screen there should be 180, £89 is your price today. And of course, you can either go onto the website, you can either jump onto the phone lines, the team are there, or you can text. It's so easy to get in touch. Have a little look. Actually, take a photo of this, because we've still got another half hour, but take a photo of that, and then you can get in touch as we finish. You can either text Will, the team will be there till 3 a.m, so ring them before 3 a.m. You don't need to know anything right now. This is just securing the deal.
Yeah, securing the deals, whether it's the wills or the lasting power of attorney. simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. You can call the team in the client care team right there through till 3 a.m. 0333 600 2600, or texting again is the best way.
So easy.
Because it's so simple. I love what Ian said. You've got your phone right there. Just get started.
You don't have to speak to anybody. You just text us 66777, the word will, and then later on today, they'll get in touch after 11 a.m, so they won't get in touch with you early to sort out a day that's good for you to talk about sorting your will out. This is just you securing the prices, and the price today, £89, to make sure what you want to happen to what you own. It doesn't have to be even of value. It could be your grandma's ring, which you know isn't valuable at all, but actually you want that to go to your daughter. That's it. It's great value to you, and you don't want it to be thrown away or anyone to, you know who you want to have that. Might be your pet. Honestly, everybody has something that you want to leave to a loved one, or possibly don't want to leave to somebody who might actually, on that government's will, actually end up getting it all. So a will is so important, and split that cost £22.25, the first of 4 monthly payments. So affordable. It's what you probably spend on coffees. But power of attorney is something we keep mentioning, and I think we should mention it again before the end of the show.
Yeah.
Because I think we understand what a will is to a degree, though lots of us don't realise how it would actually work if you didn't write one. But power of attorney, I think a lot of people wouldn't even know what it was.
Yeah, and I think we should bring Charlotte back in as well, because when it comes to power of attorney, like Hayley said, we all know, I think, what a will is, and we all really know we need a will. But when it comes to power of attorney, this might be something that people haven't experienced or heard of.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're always going to need to use a will at some point. That's inevitable. So powers of attorney, these are separate documents to your will. So these are from now, essentially, until you pass away. So if for any reason you lose your mental capacity, so whether it is through an accident, whether it is ill health, we've said dementia obviously is a lot more prominent now, it just means that you can nominate who you trust to make your decisions for you. So there's 2 types of powers of attorney.
Right.
One is property and finance. So if you nominated a partner or a sibling, whoever that would be, it means that they can access your bank accounts, so they can pay your bills, they can claim any pensions that might be paying out to you, benefits if you're receiving benefits. They can manage property if you own property as well. So anything from my financial side, you can see a couple of them listed on there. The other document is health and welfare. So this one basically allows that same person, or whoever you would choose for that document, to decide where you're living. So if you're unwell and they want you to stay at home with them, they can make that choice. If they can discuss medication, even things down to what you're eating, what you're wearing, which, you know, sound trivial, but they can be really, really important. And only your loved ones or friends, whoever they would be, would know
what you want.
Exactly, yeah.
And that would be completely out of your hands if you didn't have lasting power. Because before we did mums, and we only did mums recently actually with Simpler Law, and before we knew them here at ShopOnTV, we'd, because of circumstances for somebody else, realised how important lasting power of attorney was. I just presumed, you know, I look after mum now. Everybody knows that I'm there for mum. I just presumed that I would be able to do all of that.
Yeah, and again, it's that assumption, isn't it? You just think you can do that. And while you have capacity, you can allow those people to make that choice.
When you explain it, you wouldn't be able to take control of a bank account.
No, unfortunately not.
When you're fine. So never mind when you've lost capacity.
Exactly, yeah.
And that makes it really clear then, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you try and access each other's bank accounts now, you've got to go through data protection.
Yeah.
And if you're not that person, they're not going to let you through. So this assumption of being able to do that when someone's actually vulnerable and can't make that choice themselves, if anything, those barriers are going to be higher. Of
course.
Yeah.
Because they want to protect you. So yeah, you're not going to be able to do any of those things that we've just listed, accessing bank accounts, claiming pensions. It can make it really, really difficult. So it's really, really powerful documents.
And if you haven't got these documents, what actually does happen?
So essentially the authorities will step in and you have to apply through what's called the Court of Protection, because unless you've had that document in place and named that person that you trust, you can't do anything for that person that's lost capacity. So as you can see on there, applying for the Court of Protection, it's not only costly, you can see the application fee alone is £371.
And that's
just to apply.
Exactly. That's you're going to get.
No, that's not going any further. That's just to apply. You've then got an assessment fee because you've got to prove that you've got that person's best interests at heart. So this is also time consuming. We say on average it's around a year. Could be longer.
And all this time the loved one's suffering, aren't they?
Exactly, and you still can't access anything or do anything for that person during this time.
And you're already so upset because they're ill, and now you can't help them in any way.
And
this is the thing.
You can't use their money to pay for this because you can't
Nope.
access it.
Correct.
No, so you've got to try and find that from somewhere yourself to actually go through that process. And again, the fees can rack up even further. You've actually got an annual fee there because when you're applying through the courts, there's a supervision fee, which is £320 annually. So that's actually
that price
ongoing.
doesn't stop at £1,000.
No.
And Ian, you were saying this is just the beginning. This is if you deal with it yourself, don't use a professional service.
Yeah, most people, unfortunately, because you know the time's taken up with the loved one, and unless you're familiar with court processes and court applications, they're horrific. Yeah. So you often turn to a professional, and those fees will run into the thousands. So I've met people in the past that have said they've used the wrong terminology. Said, "Oh yes, I got a lasting power of attorney for my mum, and it cost me £5,000." And you're like, well, that wouldn't have been a lasting power of attorney. You talk to them for a bit longer, you realise they didn't have a lasting power of attorney. They ended up having to go through the court process. So it's thousands of pounds, and it's months and months and months. And in worst case scenarios, it's taking over a year for the deputyship order to be granted. So it's making a terrible situation worse. So having a lasting power of attorney in place doesn't make that situation any better, but it doesn't make it worse, because whilst you had capacity, you said, I want my son, I want my daughter, I want my husband, I want my wife. Whoever you choose to trust to step into your shoes, for want of a better description, you did that whilst you had capacity. So again, it's another selfless act. But this genuinely does give you peace of mind, because you know you're going to be cared for and looked after by the person that you trust to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've made their life easier, because they can just register that document with what's called the Office of Public Guardian, and it's not going to be brought into question that you wanted this person to do it, because whilst you had capacity, you said, no, I want this person to look after me. Unfortunately, the Court of Protection is there to protect that vulnerable person, and even though, like we've already talked about, no one would question you wanting to look after your mom, but actually the court's job is to do just that.
Yeah.
And certainly in financial matters, in some situations, they'll even ask the applicant to put a bond down. They have to put their own money down as security to show that, so it can get really messy, really expensive, and really quite distressing quickly. Yeah. And again, it's all avoidable. And if we had that magical crystal ball, if we could see the future and know that no curveball was being thrown to us, you'd say, well, I don't need a lasting power of attorney. We know we need a will, but I won't bother with a lasting power of attorney. But if you had that crystal ball and you could see something happening, you wouldn't hesitate.
No.
Because
yeah, we'd do it, wouldn't we, straight away?
Oh, my wife and I have had lasting powers of attorney in place for 17 years now, in the hope that we never need to use them. But it comes back to my cliche, but it's absolutely correct, is that no one ever regrets putting these documents in place, but your family might regret that you didn't. You know, and that's the cliche, isn't it, about regret? They say you regret the things you didn't do.
Yeah.
And so you can, by all means, you can gamble, but interestingly, we will pay money to protect tangible things that we see every day. We'll insure our phones, we'll insure our boiler, we'll insure our pets. You know, we'll get pet insurance, we'll have house insurance, we'll have car insurance. And these figures will run into hundreds, if not thousands of pounds a year. And, you know, as we've shown on this show, because of these exclusive offers, you know, an LPA can be as little as £44 a month for 4 months. You know, it's just over £1 a day for 4 months. It doesn't have to be expensive. And all those costs and all that time that you've just seen, they're all replaced. They all go away.
So to avoid all those costs, what do our viewers need to set up an LPA with you today?
A working phone.
Great.
In all seriousness, they don't need to know anything about, you know, they might want to think about who they would choose. There's other questions that obviously we need to ask to make sure this document's appropriate and right for them. Because in the same way as a will, you can create your own lasting power of attorney, but it won't give you any advice. It won't give you any signing guidance, all that kind of stuff. So we'll hold your hand through the whole process. But we can only do that if you text the word will to 66777, or the client care team is still there now. There's a cruel part of me wanting to invite any viewers watching to phone at 2:59 a.m.
Yeah.
But,
Right before they're all running out to bed.
but the client care team, you know, and to be fair, they are often there after 3 o'clock because people are still phoning. You know, if you want to speak to the client care team, they're there, they're waiting to take your call now. If you want us to call you later this morning, text the word will to 66777, because that's all you need today. Is you just need to know that you want to secure one of these deals, whether it be a will, whether it be a lasting power of attorney, or both. It doesn't matter. Just taking that all-important first step means you've done something amazing for yourself and your family.
And you make it so easy, because I did Mum's lasting power of attorney with Simpler Law well before they worked with us here at ShopOnTV, and I'm petrified of everything. My mum's even worse than me. Law is really, you know, big words. I know I'll be confused. I'll say the wrong thing. I'll ask the wrong question. Yeah,
it is. It really is.
And it
or
wasn't.
You'll do something wrong.
Yeah. And so you know, I feel very uncomfortable in those situations. You made it so simple. I didn't feel like any question was a silly question. No, it was more like sitting down and having a conversation like we are tonight. And you getting the answers from us, really, with what you were saying. We didn't really need to know anything apart from having a chat.
You don't, exactly. That's all it is. It's just it's a conversation for you to figure out what you want to achieve. Yeah. Some clients will come and they'll know all the answers, and that's also okay. But it is okay to feel, you know, a bit daunted by it. It is okay not to come with the answers. That's what the conversation's for. And sometimes you won't even know that you actually do have the answers.
Yeah, no,
it's having that conversation and you'll say something and think, oh, right, actually, yeah, exactly.
And you're part of the team, aren't you? The client care team.
Yeah.
So you take people's calls on a daily basis, deal with all the different scenarios.
Yeah, and everyone's different, but honestly, we can help everybody. Don't ever think that your scenario can't be achieved, because it can. It's just having that conversation and putting it in place. That's all we're asking you to do, because you will feel so much relief, every client I speak to, at the end of the consultation. Even if you come really, you know, nervous and not sure what to expect, you'll feel so relieved at the end. It's a weight lifted that you probably didn't even know you had.
And what we didn't realise, because we did it for Mum, because she's getting older, so it made sense. But actually, age doesn't come into it, does it? We're like, we should have lasting power of attorney for each other.
Everyone should. Everyone should. Wills and powers of attorney, they aren't age related. A lot of people think they are, because you do, you know, you think of ill health, don't you? You think of things like we've said, dementia, that you see a lot more commonly now. But, you know, if you've got a bank account at 18, I know that sounds silly, but, you know, these documents cover you from that age. So it's making sure you've got that in place and achieving what you want to achieve. It's having that control, like we say, and making sure what you want to happen happens.
The important thing is getting the documents in place now. Getting the documents in place now, they don't have to be set in stone, believe it or not. You know, there are services we provide where, you know, there's ongoing service, so people will update the wills.
Right.
You know, they will change as circumstances change. So, you know,
Life changes.
Yeah, so postponing doing something because something's going to change, well, you'd never settle.
It's always
And unfortunately, you know, and I've mentioned this before, we don't like to term it this way, but it's a fact. We get too late phone calls in the office. You know, it's too late. My dad's passed away, he didn't have a will. It's too late. He could only make a will whilst he was alive and had capacity. You know, we get the phone call, my dad unfortunately has been diagnosed with dementia. It's now too late for us to put a lasting power of attorney in for him, so you go in the alternative routes. And the awful thing is, if they'd have phoned 3 months earlier, sometimes weeks earlier, we might have been able to help. So, you know, I say again, if you're watching this and you're thinking, oh, I think that might be a good idea, the best thing you can do for yourself is don't think about it anymore and actually just take that all-important first step, because you won't regret that you did. And you've done something absolutely amazing, not just for yourself, but for the people that you love.
And that is the absolute truth. And it is so easy as well to get in touch. So if you are thinking, you know, what deals have we got? Take a look at all the deals. We've got the deals for the will, we've got the lasting power of attorney, and you can do a joint as well, which is always really, really popular. All you're doing tonight is securing these deals. And I know lots of us think it's going to be expensive. You can see there for the will, the family and estate will, £180 normally. So actually, it's not expensive at that full price, but £89 is your deal if you secure that deal tonight or this morning. And that's 4 payments of £22.25. And I bet you, and I know I say it time and time again, but I bet you spend more than that on coffee a month. And that is you knowing that everything you want to happen will happen when you die. You know that every loved one that you wanted to pass on those gifts to will get what you wanted to leave them. It might even be a pet that you want to leave to someone. You've then got lasting power of attorney, which we've just been speaking about.
And we will reiterate, there are 2 different types of lasting power of attorney. We'll talk about that before the end of the show. £179 is the reduced price. £44.75 on your first of 4 payments if you want to take advantage of those monthly instalments from Simpler Law. A will and an LPA combination together, if you want to go for that, the offer that Simpler Law have got for us today should be £505. £249 is the offer price, and that comes down to £62.25 on your first of 4 interest-free payments. Remember, the first 250 clients, if there's any remaining, will also receive those free What My Family Should Know books, and that's a book where you keep everything that you need. Things like all your bank accounts, your pensions, all those things like passwords for your computers and your phone, so you can get into everything, so you know where everything is, and it's all in one place.
It's a brilliant book, that. I think everyone should have that from birth, but it's perhaps a little bit too early. But as going into adulthood, you should have that book, because it just allows your loved ones to find every bit of information. Where is all your information? Is it in shoe boxes? It's hidden there, and they can't find. And that's money lost. And there's so much information. And it's not just about money, but it is money lost, isn't it, Ian?
Yeah, I mean, this allows you to sit down and take stock. One of the interesting facts that came out of this when we were putting this together is the amount of money that's not being claimed when people have passed away. So there's £5 billion of pension pots in the UK that haven't been basically discovered. So there's £5 billion sat there that should be with your loved ones now and isn't. There's £2 billion of unclaimed life insurance policies. So someone's taken the time to pay up a policy and the policy's never been found. So again,
no one knew.
And no one knew, but if you'd sat down and taken stock and listed this, then it helps your family find it.
What happens to that money if it's never claimed?
Well, the companies aren't rushing to try and find out where it should go. I'm not sceptic or cynical. There's £850 million believed to be in UK bank accounts as well. Exactly the same reason.
Again, nobody knows that bank account is there.
Well, I think about my own situation. When I was 18, I'd opened a tiny account and I had a little standing order going in there that still goes in there. I think my wife is aware of that, and obviously we've got the equivalent of this. You know, Jeannie and I know everything about each other, or at least I think I do. But I think about that. If I'd not mentioned that, I've only got a bank card that's stuck away somewhere. I haven't even got a passport. And it'd be very easily missed. And it's things like that. So there'll be plenty of accounts with a few hundred or a few £1,000 in that have basically not been found. But that comes full circle to making a will, and whether you want to consider using a professional executor as well, because obviously they have tools where they can find some of these things that perhaps your bereaved wife or your son or daughter can't. And that all comes back to the advice that we give you. But we can only give you that advice if you send us a text or pick up the phone. So please do.
And do. The text is really busy, but so easy to text. Just text Will to 66777. So simple to do, and that's your first step to make sure everything that you want to happen happens, but also to secure that book, but to secure the prices we've got as well. Now we are going to go back to wills because I think we should finish on wills. I think it's we started with wills because I think, well, everybody should have a will, but I think it's one of those things that we do continually put off.
Yeah, and I think we have a lot of misconceptions when it comes to wills, don't we? I think people think...
I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, like we did, like we always say, we thought, oh, well, we've been together for 33 years, it'll go to each other. But it doesn't do that unless you've got a will if you're not married, does it?
No, exactly, yeah. So a lot of people don't realise that if you don't actually have a will in place, you do actually have what we call a government will, so rules of intestacy. So you do actually have something which isn't going to achieve probably what you wanted to do. Exactly.
Yeah. No.
You assume that if you have said you've been together 33 years, unmarried, you just assume that everyone knows. So it's all going to pass to each other. Why would it not? But
it doesn't.
It doesn't by law. No, unfortunately not. So this is where you can see a lot of family breakdowns because we have a lot more. Well, you see a lot more merged families now, blended families. So if you've got children from different relationships, a lot of the time these children can be disinherited because it may not actually go where you want it to.
What would happen in that situation? So if there were two parents with children from different marriages, but actually they've been living together as a family, surely they'd be seen as a family.
No, so they might feel like they are. This is where we say rules of intestacy doesn't take into account, emotion. It's as simple as law. So if you've got husband and wife, and they haven't got a will, and husband passes away, they've got children from separate relationships, by rules of intestacy, if their estate's below 322,000, that will all go to wife. And then, obviously, as they probably would all agree, they're a big family unit, they want it to be split between the children. But again, if wife doesn't have a will, that's going to pass by rules of intestacy to her biological children only.
Just to her children? Just
to her children. So husband's children have actually been disinherited. We call it sideways disinheritance. And this is where you see the family breakdown because, as you can see on the rules of intestacy there, it's simple yes or no answers. So, are you married or in a civil partnership, yes or no? If you're not, do you have children? And it's going to those biological children.
So it could actually go to
families.
A complete stranger, really, of some family member, but a complete stranger.
Absolutely.
Not in contact with.
Actually, we spoke quite a lot about children as well, but you see a lot of situations now where there could be a married couple who have separated for a long time, maybe never got round to a divorce, have a new partner, and haven't written a will. And again, that first question, are you married or in a civil partnership?
Oh,
yes.
my goodness.
If you've built a life with this partner for 33 years...
And got a house together.
And you might be married, that's actually all going to go to that spouse that you've not actually got round to that divorce with or written a will to exclude that person.
Oh, my word.
So it goes way further than just having children or blended families. If you're in a unique situation like this.
And then if we went to a scenario, awfully, if both parents passed away, if you haven't written a will and you've left children who aren't of age to look after themselves...
So you've not got guardianship,
there's
essentially.
no proper guardianship.
No, so if you've got a will, obviously we account for guardianship for those children under 18, which is great, and you can put that in there, but if you haven't got a will in place, unfortunately you're relying on the right person to step forward to take care of those children. And that might not be the person that you choose in the first instance.
But then it could also be lots of people who
that could cause a family upset, both grandparents.
I had a couple argue in front of me when the question was posed. They argued in front of me because she wanted a sister and he wanted his brother. And there was an absolute...
Oh gosh, while they were writing.
I just sort of hid behind my folder.
Yeah, because you've not had that conversation.
But the reality, even they came to realise, it wasn't, but it was, they kind of forgot I was in the room for a minute and then it was like, they realised if they're arguing about it whilst they're alive, what could happen when they passed away? So it was like it was really important that they got that sorted because their children were really young and funnily enough she won the argument, but they got that sorted.
Yeah.
And without that, they realised that they were arguing whilst they were both alive.
Without them speaking to you, they hadn't probably even thought about their children because I think when you write a will, I think you think about property, you think about financial.
Truthfully,
I don't think
truthfully, that situation, I'd not even mentioned a will, Hayley. I'd just asked an awful question. If God forbid the worst happened to you yesterday,
Don't.
who would look after your children? I'd not even mention a will. I knew they got children, so I
You're
was
not
just
the one to take to a party, are you?
no, no. And then I stepped back. I had no idea that was going to be.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was going to
I'll
be the
leave
reaction.
that to blow up.
But most parents, if they're honest with themselves now, you know, if there's parents of young children watching this now, they will have someone in mind. Whilst you don't want to think about, I don't want to think about it.
No.
I don't want to think about my boys, you know, growing up without me. But if they did, Jeannie and I have chosen our guardians. There are people that we love them. We know they love the boys. They're the perfect guardians because, you know, they're a similar age, you've got similar values. So I think most parents have an idea of who they would want their children to go to. But unless you document that, you're leaving it entirely up to chance and someone that's never met you, someone that's never met your children, never met either your chosen guardians, hopefully, or someone else that steps up, someone's going to be making that decision that isn't you. So again, it comes back to being selfless and it comes back to control. If you're a parent, I'm going to be blunt, I don't understand why you don't make a will.
Why you wouldn't?
Yeah, because no one wants to leave the kids, you know, to chance.
No, of course.
Yeah, so.
Not for the sake of the prices we're offering as well.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
Exactly,
the offers are.
If you did it just for that one thing alone, it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we get it all wrong. We think it's going to be complicated. We think it's going to be expensive. You know, you think it's going to be even time consuming. None of those things. It is so simple to do, and Simpler Law will go at your pace as well to get your bespoke will. It gives you that peace of mind that what you want to happen, and whether that be for children or whether that be for your finances, what you want to happen happens, that it goes to who you want it to go to, and actually sometimes doesn't go to who you didn't want it to go
And
to.
it's not that you're just doing it for yourself, you're doing it for your family.
It's that last gift.
So it's all in place when you've gone, everything, all those wishes, there's no other arguments because all your wishes are written down.
I don't know what happens when you pass, but there'd be nothing worse, would there, than looking down on an arguing family and actually you know you were to blame for that. If you'd just written that will, that wouldn't have happened. And that would be me, and that's, you know, I wouldn't even rest in peace because I'd be then worried to death that
It would
ruined everybody's life. Because that's you know,
that
wouldn't
blame.
you? And that would be, I'd be hovering around forever. worried to
Some
death.
guilty conscience work needs to be done.
You know, I
She's
am,
always got the guilty conscience.
Always. So.
We've got to remind you of the offers before the end of the show. The offers from experts in the field, remember, when it comes to Simpler Law. If you want to go for the family estate will, £180 is the regular price, the suggested price. It's down to £89 or £22.25 on your first of 4 payments. It really is.
I bet you spend more on coffee than those payments, those monthly payments. So get that will done. There is no reason not to. Get in touch tonight and secure that deal. Lasting power of attorney, which we've gone into great detail tonight, and is so important. £325 it should be. £179 is your deal today, and 4 payments of £44.75. And then you can do the joint, the will and lasting power of attorney. Should be £505, £249, and of course that's better than half price. And you split that cost over 4 payments. You might not be sure. I don't know whether to do a will or do the lasting power of attorney or both. Doesn't matter. Just get in touch tonight. It'll allow you as well to hopefully secure that book too, and you can get in touch via the website simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV.
Yeah, you're just securing the deals, remember. If you want to call the call centre, the guys are still there at the moment. 0333 600 2600 is the number. If you don't want to call today, you'll still be able to call tomorrow. Or the best way to do it is to text the word will.
Yeah.
WILL to 66777, and the team will get in touch with you after 11 a.m. tomorrow. That is the easiest way.
Take a quick photo of that right now. Get your phone, take a quick photo, and you've got all the details there.
And if you miss anything, you can go straight to our website, shopontv.co.uk. The banner is always there on our website. You can just click on that banner and it'll scroll you through to all the details and all of the offers.
But make sure you secure those deals and get that fabulous book tonight, and do it now, because you'll just put it off another day.
You've started the process, and that's all you need to do. And you're doing it for the family as well as for yourself.
It's your last gift.
Got to say a huge thank you to the team.
As always.
Thank you for
Ian
having
and
us.
Charlotte.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Made it to 3 a.m.
We
again.
did.
How are your bottoms on our chairs?
Mine died about an hour ago.
Might not be able to move now.
Lovely to see you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely to have your company at home as well. But do just secure those offers. Get in touch. That's all you've got to do at simplerlaw.co.uk/ShopOnTV. We'll see you tomorrow.